Thank you.
All right, our guest speaker, our first speaker is Anna Hoop from ACS here at Fort Knox. So without further ado, we're going to start the Family Readiness Group overview. That's the first set of slides.
Good morning, and thank you all for having me here today, and thank you for being interested in the Family Readiness Group. Normally I do this very interactively, but this is, like you said, a test of virtuality, so here we go. Next slide, please. We not only have an FRG because it's a commander's program, but really the reason that we have an FRG is threefold. We have the FRG, first of all, for timely and accurate information, and that's the thing to focus on when you're working with families. It's getting out that timely and accurate information. Also to keep people connected, and this is the new connection as we're seeing our future. And then the last thing is to diffuse problems at the lowest level. And because yours is such a unique group of people that are coming together from so many different areas, you're going to be really gurus in helping people find the resources that they need. You can see the regulation that's quoted there, AR 608-1 Appendix J. That is the regulation that's going to give you all the information you're going to need to take care of that FRG. And the beautiful thing about that regulation is it's very broad. And I'm going to go into that in the next slide. Once again, this is a place where that command is going to be able to help out those family members that are out there. A lot of times what we find with families is they know they're out there, they know they're a part of the military, but they don't know what's there for them. And the other real big push in the military right now is to create resilient families, to create resilient family members. And what's going to happen there is as you're in your FRG and you're providing your services, you're going to be linking people to those resources that they need. Not necessarily taking their hand, because it's going to be hard for you because you're far away, to take their hand and take them to where they need to go. But what you're going to do is be those gurus with resource information to link them, so that they can learn to take care of themselves and also to be empowered to take care of themselves. So it's a good thing. Next slide, please. So about that broad regulation, it says in the regulation that you will have FRG member meetings. It doesn't say how often, it doesn't say how long, it doesn't say where, but you have to have an FRG members meeting. So in your case, I'm thinking a lot of your members meetings are going to be virtual now. Another thing about the meetings is, like I said, it doesn't say how often. So you get to determine how often you get together. It also says that there needs to be an FRG staff. What it does say in the regulation is that you will have some key positions, and I'm going to talk about those in a moment. Another thing that it says, and here's where you can see the age of these slides, it says that you should have a publication and a distribution of FRG newsletters. Not many people do hard copy newsletters anymore, but what they do instead of that is maybe a Facebook page. I believe that I heard Google Chat over here. We have the virtual FRG, but the important thing is to remember you're getting out timely and accurate information. Okay, maintaining and updating family rosters. Used to be FRSAs, and in your case, I believe readiness support.
Soldier Family Assistance.
Yes, different terminology, but they take care of those rosters as well as the unit can help take care of the roster. And the whole purpose of having that roster is to get out that timely and accurate information and to be connected with one another. That's the whole idea, is being connected with one another. Those family rosters and family readiness information is a living, breathing thing. People change their telephone service, they move, a lot of different things happen. So it's something that continues to change. And that has to do with the telephone tree and also the email distribution list. And just a tidbit. Everyone in your unit is a member of your FRG. Now, whether they participate or not, that's completely up to them, but everybody is a member. So while you're working on your distribution list or on your telephone tree, if somebody says they don't want to be contacted, it's okay. But you're going to want to get that timely and accurate information to the soldier for sure, and he would be getting that when he needs. And then to schedule educational briefings, and this is one right now. Just a little bit of information. What we often say in the active duty component is when you're together, make the meeting short, about an hour, 15 minutes for timely and accurate information, and then maybe 15 minutes a guest speaker coming in and talking about something such as taking care of yourself during storms. How do you prepare for a storm? Do you have a ready kit that's ready in case you need to evacuate to a basement or something like that? Because that has to do with readiness too. Next slide, please. I think probably this isn't as big a problem for you guys as it is for those that are at an installation. The non-mission activities are, of course, those social activities and also fundraising. I'm not sure if you guys do fundraising, but we'll touch on that just a little bit. Go ahead. So these are some of the things that that the FRG is not. And one of the big things there I want to point out is that FRGs aren't just for deployments. It's family readiness group, and there's a lot of things that we need to be ready for. You know, financial issues that come up that we didn't expect. That definitely is a readiness issue. And that doesn't have anything to do with deployment. That just has to do with thinking ahead. It's not just for people with, they say problems, I say issues. We all have issues. We just don't know when they're coming, and we don't know how intense they're going to be. Another thing, part of the casualty notification process, the FRG is never a part of that. The most the FRG might be is if there were a casualty that happened in the unit, you may have a meeting that the commander calls where he's giving out timely and accurate information about not necessarily the casualty, but probably anything that the families could do to help the family that sustained the casualty. So meals or even greeting cards because you're long distance, that type of a thing. But the FRG would never ever be a part of the casualty notification. That's a CMOC issue. And then fundraising, once again, do they do fundraising? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, then remember that FRGs aren't just for fundraising, but they're a part of the FRG. If questions, comments? Okay, we're gonna forward John. One of the things that I like to bring up about the FRG in today's modern world is, used to be that families were like the Leave It to Beaver family. It was the mom, the dad, the siblings. It's much broader than that now, and what I talk about is the soldiers' family, those that are involved with the soldiers, those who love the soldiers. That's how we define family. So that could be mothers, dads, grandparents, fiancés, partners. It covers a wide spectrum. And part of why I'm mentioning that is when you're doing your telephone tree, it might be that a soldier would say, I want my mom to be connected in this. As a matter of fact, my mom has time on her hands, and I wish that she could hold a position in the FRG such as the informal fund custodian. She's very talented in this area. She's savvy with computers. So there's another place for a volunteer. I don't know if you guys have problems getting volunteers, but remember, you have a lot of places to tap for volunteers. Go ahead. I'm understanding as I'm talking with your SMEs here that you're not a part of the deployment cycle, but what you do is recruit. So I think the reason it's important to understand the deployment cycle is because you may be working with families who don't know about the deployment cycle when it comes to recruiting. So basically, this is the deployment cycle. Go ahead. Well, there's an excellent reason why family readiness groups were put together, and one is that timely and accurate information. Also that connection, being with another person or communicating with another person that may be going through the same issues that you're going through. So that's that connection piece of it. Problem solving. Just the little things that we bump into in life. It's nice to be able to say, and you can start with something so small as a flat tire. You know, I had a flat tire and I couldn't get that doggone lug nut out for anything. And what I would say if somebody were saying that to me is, that's why I have AAA. I'm not going to worry about lug nuts. But it is something to consider when it comes to problem solving. And then for the soldier, it's great for the soldiers to know that there is a place that timely and accurate information is going to get out, so that the families are connected. And then focusing on the mission. And you have a definite mission to get those soldiers recruited. And then for the commanders, it fulfills one of the commander's responsibility to have an FRG. Also, when the commander has a well-operating FRG, he knows that he'll be able to meet that mission because his families will be ready. And once again, I'm going to bring up that weather thing because America is experiencing so much extreme weather. This could, for the commander, impact him at some time should his families be involved in a weather crisis. Go ahead. Okay, let's talk just a little bit about your FRG volunteers and some of the expectations we have of the volunteers. First of all, the FRG runs completely on volunteers. The 601 Appendix J talks about that people in a green suit basically are not the people that you're wanting to hold those volunteer positions. And there's a good reason for that. Those people that are in the military have a mission and they're very busy. The other thing is we know from groups that people that are invested in a group want the very best for the group. And so the more you have ownership, the more you have buy-in, the better the group will be. So that FRG leader needs a few positions, and some of the positions, the key positions, as it says up here on the slide, is your key callers, your FRG informal fund custodian, and there needs to be an alternate. And just a point about that informal fund custodian, that's the only position within the FRG, the only volunteer position that the person is held accountable. So that's a position that have two people in. Also, you're going to need an FRG leader. Could be you need a co-leader. Once again, this is the beauty of the broadness of the regulation. It doesn't say what you have to have. It says that it's a possibility. How many volunteers do you need in your FRG? Only you guys know, because each one of you are so distinct and individual. And then, are you able to get the help that you need to get that membership going? Next, please. So as you look at these suggestions for typical volunteer positions, you'll also see that there are some that are asterisk. Those are the ones that you absolutely have to fulfill the mission of the FRG. I don't know if you can see me or not. I've got some things here. There are some helps for you. For instance, if you go to www.armyfrg, you're going to find the smart book there. If you have new volunteers, I would suggest that they go ahead and download that smart book. It's going to give them some of the things that they need to have a successful FRG. It's going to have copies of SOPs, and the commanders do need to make sure those SOPs are in place. It's also going to have some things that have to do with the membership. There's a membership information page on there. And the beauty of that is that you can find out what your membership interests are. Another thing that we have that'll help these folks is training, just like you're seeing right now. Now, we don't have any online training here at Fort Knox, but I'm very happy to do virtual training for you, so I would be happy to do that. And then key callers, I would imagine this is a big part of your FRG, is being able to reach out and call people. Now, some of the other things, some of the other positions that are up there are absolutely excellent. For instance, I'm looking at the special events chair. That would be something that each one of you maybe individually would like. Maybe you have a think tank of people that would put something together, but that special events chair would be the one that would be the spearhead person to get it done. Next, please. I think that this is a pretty self-explanatory slide, but these are some of the things that you're looking for your volunteers. One of the big ones I talk about up there quite a bit is being non-judgmental. When you're working with people and families, a lot of times they become very transparent, especially when they have issues. And it's at that time I say, put your rose-colored glasses down. You never know, one day you might be in that position as well. But this is also where your FRG needs to be aware of what of their outside of the military resources are. So whoever is in their FRG, they should be ready to field some of those issues that may come up. Whether it's knowing where to get your car registered, or where to pay a speeding ticket, or where to get child care. Where do my children get swimming lessons? When we used to be on post, we went to one of the youth programs. Now where do I go? These are all things that we are thinking FRG volunteers should know so that they can help people connect. And another one that we don't talk about a lot, but it's really become quite a big thing in Army Fit, is taking care of yourself. Making sure that you're getting enough rest, making sure that your diet is right, making sure that you're getting your exercise. This is all about being the best that you can be for a very good cause. Questions? Comments? We're good? Keep rolling? Okay. Next slide, please. Did you know that volunteers have rights? Oh my gosh, this was a good one. This is a very good one to know. First of all, volunteers should be given jobs that are meaningful, that really mean something and make a difference. A volunteer should be informed. A volunteer needs to know, what is the commander's intent for this FRG? What is it that you're looking at through the calendar year? What are your events going to be? And then Napoleon even said, recognition, he said, a man will die for a small ribbon to put upon his chest. It's the same way with any volunteer. And it doesn't have to be anything tangible. It can be something as much as recognition at a meeting. Thanks so much for making that a successful event, Tiffany. There you go. Alrighty, next slide. The way that your FRG can support your volunteers, first of all, by having written job descriptions. Once again, that's going to be in your SMART book. There are sample job descriptions there. You can also go to Army FRG and find job descriptions. It's important that your volunteers have job descriptions. A lot of times what you'll see with people that are willing to volunteer is they're doing something else real important right now, and that's normally raising a family. So there's a void quite often in a person's career path, and that void can be filled with volunteerism. That's why it's important to have that job description. It's also important to have a job description so you know what you're doing, you know what lane that you're in, and you have a purpose for doing that. Training. Very similar to what you're doing right now. Getting right down to what are your roles and responsibilities. Who's setting the path for you and what the path is. Supervision. Supervision is by the FRG leader, and the FRG leader is supervised by the commander. So when you have a really functional FRG, that becomes the commander's right hand. That's some place where the commander can say, this is my intent, this is what I would like for my families. And the FRG leader, with the help of the FRL,
SFA.
Yeah, SFA. Sorry. With that whole team is going to see that the commander's intent is held out. And then once again, there's that recognition. Go ahead. So for the volunteer training, here is some of the places that you can get that training, and I brought a lot of samples to show you, but I'm not sure where the calendar or where the camera is. One of the big things that I would say is the Smart Book, but also at Army FRG are a lot of other op-ready materials. One I would recommend for everybody, including the commander, is the FRG Leaders Handbook. It basically puts everything in a nutshell from the 608-1 Appendix J, gives you an idea of what people are supposed to be doing, what things, and how to get to the goal that you want. Another really good one that everybody should have is a Soldier and Family Problem Solving Guide. And what it is inside of it are different issues that has a wire graph. When somebody puts up, like here's one, how can I get legal help? And then it talks about the soldier, the family member is being sued. And then it has that wire graph that says, who do I go to? And not just on post, but off post assets have to be looked at the same time. This is something that I would suggest your FRG leader start working on right now, because each one of you are so different. Find those resources for your folks so that when they step into that FRG volunteer position, they're ready for it. Of course, Army Community Service is there to help you, but that's your brick and mortar place to get help. Since you guys aren't close to Army Community Services, or I don't think you are, remember your Military One Source. Your Military One Source is your virtual ACS. And the beauty of them, much better than an ACS, is that it's 7/24/365 and they answer all questions. They are degree people. Have somebody used? Yes, Military One Source is a very, very good asset. I use them quite often. They're mandated to get back with you within 72 hours. It's never taken them 72 hours for me. They normally send me emails with the information I'm asking for. Your Army Volunteer Corps Coordinator is very important. That's the person who takes care of your VMAs, your Volunteer Management Information System. That's where your volunteers will keep track of the hours that they're volunteering. And then, of course, your local community, you will be trained in that area of what's available for you. Okay, next slide. As I said just a little bit ago, the FRG leader is the one who actually supervises all of those two positions. They work together to put together what the commander expects of his group. It's normally done very informally. Mostly the reason that anybody would need supervision is basically to know what the staff is connected. Oh, I got connected. Oh, they can see me. Oh, crazy. Okay. Okay. Oh my. Okay. Thank you. They can see the back of my head. Thank you so much.
It's right here.
Okay.
Thanks.
All righty. Okay, let's keep going. Here we're talking about why or how a supervisor would take care of anything in the FRG that needed to be looked at and corrected. Might be direct rules or regulations have been violated. It could be that somebody has failed to perform an assignment. For instance, remember, it's timely and accurate information that we're looking for. So it might be something didn't get posted on Google at the right time, or a meeting wasn't announced when it needed to. That would be something that maybe the volunteer would need to be talked to and ask them to hit those targets that you put out there. Of course, blatant mistreatment of another and confidentiality is huge. Like I said, in an FRG, quite often when families have issues, they become very transparent. And what I would like to say to you is always treat other people's business with confidentiality as you would like your business taken care of. Next slide, please. Some of the administrative things that needs to be taken care of by the FRG volunteers. Actually, the FRG leader is going to be doing this for the unit commander, is making sure that each volunteer has a written job description, and those job descriptions can be tailored too. As you're looking at your op-ready material to get job descriptions, you can tailor that to what you need. Also, you're going to be working with your volunteers and asking them to keep track of their hours. A lot of volunteers are saying, I'm not doing this for any recognition, I'm not doing this to rack up a lot of hours. But it's important that we know what hours are put in so we can submit reports ourselves. Fort Knox was just very privileged to win an award because of volunteer hours, and what that means is money for the coffers, and it's probably similar in some of your programs as well. The volunteer should be given necessary forms that they need, and there are some forms that need to be signed and put into the portfolio of the volunteer, and then the FRG leader should be providing supervision for those FRG volunteers. Next slide, please. So one of the things that your volunteers need to do is they need to register for that position, and basically you're going to go to Army FRG. You're going to go in there, and there's normally a map of the United States. You're going to click on your map, you're going to click on the unit, and those volunteer positions should be under each one of your FRGs. Then your volunteer will complete a volunteer agreement. It's a DD form 2793, and that will be signed by the commander. The hours should be submitted every month, and then you should have an OPOC, an operational point of contact, that will validate those hours. The commander can also approve incidental expenses. For instance, if there were a training close to you and the volunteer needed to drive someplace, maybe the command could pick up lunch for them as far as the expenses, and maybe provide travel expenses. And then also in that portfolio should be any training that they've completed. So for everybody who is signed in today, I'm hoping that there's a sign-in sheet, and I will send to Ms. O'Sullivan the training certificates, so those get out to your volunteers. So, like I said, fold it all up here in the portfolio. There's the job description, the hours that have been contributed, the training attended, and any recognition. And that's up to you folks, what you do for recognitions. Some of the things that have worked here at Fort Knox is name badges. They've all been small, maybe a small tote, just something to say thank you. And remember, all of this can be used by that volunteer on a resume to secure a job in the future. This is one of the things that we say that you can hold on to your volunteers for a long time, is to compliment them, to praise them, and to recognize them. Go ahead. Any questions? I hope that I've hit some of the marks for you. I know that yours is such an unusual group, but I believe that your group is the way of the future. I'm seeing more and more that people are going to be meeting virtually to meet the needs that they need with their family readiness group. Thank you so much for your attention, and if I can answer any of your questions, I would be happy to. Oh, there's more. I thought I had finished up. Go ahead, let's talk about this. Next slide, please. Who leads the FRG? When you're having your FRG leaders, this will be a good thing for the commander to know. The FRG leader actually leads the meeting. What we often talk about here is having an agenda. The agenda begins with introductions. Then the baton is passed to the commander so he can get out the timely and accurate information.
And then it's passed back to the FRG leader so that the FRG leader can take that responsibility off of the shoulders of the commander and can carry on with the rest of the meeting. Of course, the commander is going to be looking at what's happening during the meeting. He or she is the one who's going to set the pace for that FRG. And anything that goes on with the FRG, especially the fundraising, needs to be brought to the commander's attention, and he or she needs to approve it. Next slide, please. Some of the unit leaders' responsibilities then is the SOPs. The SOPs, once again, there are sample SOPs on your Smart Book that'll help you out a lot, but those should be crafted to your FRG. So if a sample FRG said we're going to be doing riverboat rides every April, and you're living in an area that doesn't have riverboats, you're going to have to craft that to be your own. Also, the commander is going to be able to authorize resources and funding. There are two sites for funding, and that is the appropriated side and then the informal fund. The appropriated side, a good thing for you to remember, commanders who happen to be sitting in the room, is that appropriated dollars cannot be used for food. So if you were having an FRG meeting and you had some appropriated dollars that you wanted to use toward food, you can't. That's why the informal fund is really important, because that's something that can be used for entertainment, for decorations, for games and prizes. Did we skip a slide already? Okay, thank you. All right, let's go ahead. Okay. This is the unit leadership then, is to maintain two-way conversations. It's knowing what the commander wants to get out to the families, and then the FRG leader and key position members knowing what the commander needs to know about from the families if there's an issue. So since you are so broadly scattered, let's say one of your families has sustained a loss, a weather loss, you would want to know about that so that you could reach out and help that family if need be. The commander also will be making sure that those FRG leaders know what the goals are and the mission. And then whatever activities that the commander wants to see done for his FRG, those would be things that he would be communicating to that leadership. Go ahead, next slide. In this case, it's going to be your support person, not the FRSA. Remember that your support person is an admin person, is not the FRG leader, is not the subject matter expert on FRG, but definitely can help, and they're the ones that are going to link you to those things to get you to the end. So next slide. Okay, the FRG leader's responsibility is to support the commander's family readiness goals. So the two of you need to talk to one another. And FRG leaders, one of the things that I would bring to your attention is making sure that you find out how your commander wants to meet with you. Is it going to be virtually? Are you going to be Skyping with one another? Is it going to be in the office every Monday morning at 10 o'clock? Is it going to be texting? You need to know whether your commander wants to text or not. Those are all easy ways to talk with one another. You're going to want to know how you're going to recruit those volunteers. Quite often, that's what happens is FRGs don't have the volunteers that they need. That's going to be one of the things that you're going to market. Who do I need? How am I going to get them? And how are we going to meet? How's that person going to be trained? And when it comes to the informal fund custodian, how are the monies actually going to be held? How are the fundraisers going to be held? You have to have an SOP that talks about why there is going to be fundraising at all. Okay? Go ahead, let's go on. handling those administrative tasks, you need to make sure that certain things are done. For instance, the informal fund FRG books need to be looked at every month. The commander looks at them, and it's very simple bookkeeping. Money in, money out. Well, we start out with balance brought forward, money in, money out, donations, and then the balance at the bottom. And it's knowing, for instance, that the FRG informal fund has a $10,000 cap. Did you know that? Did you know that the FRG can only receive up to $1,000 in donations? If it's more than that, it has to go to a battalion commander. The FRG leader also needs to make sure, and it's right about the time right now that you start projecting what's coming up in the fall, what's coming up at the holiday season, how you're going to take care of those things. Those should be outlined in your FRG SOP. Next slide, please. So that partnership can be made strong by making sure that everybody understands each other's roles and responsibilities, that you've looked at the goal of the FRG, that you have a way that you're communicating with each other as well as with your families, and that the two of you, actually the FRG leadership and the commander, are all on one sheet of music. Next slide. Your FRGs will sure know whether you're on one sheet of music or another, and that's what you're wanting. You're wanting something that's looking like mutual support for those families. That's what the FRG is all about. Next slide. Any questions? Now, I believe that I'm finished, but let's go on and see if there's one more slide. That's it. Well, thank you so much for your attention. I hope that that was helpful. If there's anything else I can do, please contact Ms. Sullivan, and she can forward that message to me. Thank you. Got a question?
It says, I have volunteers that would like to present them with more than just a certificate. I do not have the hours volunteered. I've tried to get the form filled out, no response. Can I use the NAF funds to buy a gift as long as it's within the $35 limit?
NAF funds. Do they have NAF funds?
Yes, they
Yes,
do.
we have NAF funds.
We have NAF funds.
We don't work with NAF funds, so can you answer that one?
You must have, in order to use NAF funds, those are only for certified volunteers. You must have the volunteer hours because that is an inspectable item and you're dealing with government funds. These funds are not from USAREC or even TRADARC. They're from Department of the Army. And we have to have accountability of how many volunteers.
May I?
Yes.
Also, on your statutory volunteers, they need to be on appointment orders. And appointment orders are basically from the commander saying this person is the informal fund custodian for, and then you do the unit, and it needs to be signed by the commander.
So if they're doing a job, it's in their best benefit. Now, if they don't want to use the form, our other option is Readiness. Can they log on and do their volunteers hours on there so then you can certify them? Is that less painful for them? Or can they submit it once a month and then you certify it? I understand that it's a problem sometimes for them to write down every single thing, but if you set a goal or a deadline for them that by the 4th day of the month you send me your times or put it in Readiness so we can certify it, that would be great. Does that answer your question? Do we have any other questions out there? Well, I see no further questions, so we're going to thank Anna for her portion.
Thank you.
Different way of doing things. We understand.
Yes.
Anne-Marie.
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
When I was introducing everybody, I forgot to introduce that Terry Bachelet's here and Julie McTee is here, who her husband will be taking over for Ed in a couple of weeks. So I welcome both of them as well. I got too wrapped up in the virtual part of it to welcome everyone.
Right now, I'm on the schedule for volunteer management. And question really led into that volunteer management. What I'd like to do is hear from all of your best practices. What are you doing right? What are you having issues with that we can help you with? And one of our best practices is putting together your volunteer statements. Now, volunteer statements have grown over the years. You don't just have the FRG leader or anything like that. You can have, who's your Facebook manager? So we have all these virtual systems. You can have someone that's the newsletter coordinator, but newsletters aren't mailed out by regular mail anymore. We utilize Facebook, we utilize emails. You have someone that is your social coordinator, there's a position. You have a child care coordinator. All of these jobs are out there. You have to tailor that. It's actually a resume of what they're going to do. Those things and get smarter about documenting how these people are working for you. Because it is a job. They're dedicating a portion of their time and effort out of their life to work for your FRG. With that, logging in their hours and such, they can create a resume. Many of the spouses and volunteers on an installation, that's how they build a resume. If they've never had a job, now they show that they've been managing a database of volunteers, volunteer hours, maybe they're managing informal funds or managing a Facebook account, media accounts for your FRG. So these are all jobs that you can look at and put together. You really need to show them the benefit, what's in it for them. So most people are not going to volunteer just out of the goodness of their heart. They need to see that there's a cause and effect, whether they're getting recognized, whether they see a direct impact on their family and their household and their company by volunteering to make it a better place to serve. So you need to wrap your hands around what is it that's making that volunteer tick. So what are some things that we could possibly do? Let's hit up on Minneapolis Battalion. You're up at the top of the queue. What is a good practice or best practice that you have in your footprint?
Thanks a lot, Anne-Marie.
I love you, Jan. You're the most open area. So what are you doing right to get your volunteers to network better?
Well, ours are almost all controlled specifically by the company leadership teams. The commanders, they work closely with the commanders and come to me for, liaison support type issues. Every company is different, you know that. But primarily, I think what they do is they match up the volunteer with what their strengths are, and that works really well. Because you want someone who's outgoing to be your key caller. You want somebody that's not too shy to make those calls and make those make those connections. But basically, I would, if that was one thing, it would be matching up the strengths of the volunteer with the position.
Thank you. And let's see, we have over there Columbus, what do you have that's working great in your area?
Hard to say. I'm not really thinking that we have anything in particular that draws people to become FRG leaders. I can think of it seems to be commander's wife or first sergeant's wife.
Okay. How about Milwaukee? What do you have that's working well for you?
Good morning. Well, I'm pretty excited about this question, Anne Marie, because recently, probably within the last 2 to 2.5 weeks, we have identified, and my battalion commander has placed on appointment orders our new battalion FRG leader. And she brings to the table a great deal of excitement, energy, and definitely thinking out of the box kind of stuff. One thing that we are starting to work on is a spouse FRG newsletter, so we can get that type of information out to everybody that is wanting to share their email addresses. They're also working on Google, so they're really linked in with all the different media. Additionally, our new FRG leader, we're working on developing a spouse sponsorship network for each of the companies. So not only do the soldiers get assigned a sponsor to assist them during transition issues, we're going to have a spousal sponsorship network to assist with the family-specific issues. So those are kind of the things that we're working on right now, and I think those are definitely exciting directions for us.
Now, Chicago, Alex, you in the Chicago battalion, we've been doing spouse contact. And Alex has been great enough to volunteer, and she contacts every one of the inbound spouses. And what was the response to that, Alex, when you call them?
They're just happy to hear from somebody who's already here, who they can ask questions to.
And does it assist them in you identify people that are EFMP, pregnant, any of those issues, right? And were they shocked that you're the CSM's wife calling them? You just tell them they're you're Alex.
I tell them I'm a spouse and I'm in the same position. I was in the same position as they are right now. And so it is always good to get a good welcome and to see what their needs are and if I can help them in any way.
Thanks, Alex. It's been very successful for Chicago Battalion. We've helped to assist people identify issues inbounds and also to allay a lot of their fears, setting them up with the right providers and the right school districts maybe, because they don't know how to find a school district because there's so many to choose from in the area where they're living. Also, the sponsorship program is really key, but you're reaching out only to the soldiers. If we can reach out to the families also, that's a key ingredient, because the soldiers don't always bring that sponsorship program home to the family. They leave it on their desktop, they leave it in their computer, and never email their family. So really reaching out to them, we found that we've had greater participation by initial contact, and it really has gotten them more on board with our group. The other thing we're utilizing is Facebook a lot. We post our newsletters on there, and we've got our baby pictures, our new soldiers that arrive in the battalion. So everyone's tuning in just to see their new soldier who arrived, their picture, or if they're getting an award or anything that they're doing, even at the centers. And a lot of our companies are bringing the FRG down to center level. They're doing center level events every month, along with doing company level events every quarter, because you can't always get together even as a company. And we found that the centers are bonding together strongly. There's a better fellowship there, and the spouses really enjoy meeting other people. We're going on skating parties, bowling, all kinds of different events. So reach out and maybe bring it down. Maybe having huge company level events is just not realistic for all of you, and bring it to the center level. And those center commanders want to do something like they do a barbecue or something. Kathy, in the day, didn't we have luncheons? It was like bring your spouse to work, have 1 day a month where the spouses came and brought lunch, and you had lunch with your soldier in the center. So check with your center commanders, your company commanders, and that's always a nice thing so that they can come by. They show that we're a family-friendly organization. They see the families eating lunch together. It's a great opportunity. So, yes.
I really think too, you're only as good as that station that promotes it. Because I go back to the day when Ed was in company command. As good as each station is what you're going to have. So we got to really get that leadership involved in it, make people feel welcome. Potlucks are the best thing in the world. We can do that. You know, we did that in Chicago, and we do it in their brigade in the headquarters here too. We have our potlucks. We bring family in and we celebrate birthdays and babies and everything. That's important that we're a big Army family, and I think that's the best way for us to bring some bread together.
Cleveland, you online? Do you have any best practices to share with us? Talking online, or is she? I know she was on DCO. Huh? All right, Tina, how about Nashville? What do you have for us on best practices? I don't know that she's able to unmute the mic or chat. You can type in either on Google or on your DCO any of your chat questions or comments. Okay. Do I have any volunteers online that would like to add something that they've done that they find exciting or that they've enjoyed doing coming to USAREC? I see Pam Utley from Indy Battalion out there. I see Tina Gardner from Nashville. If either of you have volunteers out there or anyone online that would like to add in, there's, looks like, okay. All right, we have nothing to add from Indy Battalion. A lot of people are utilizing VMIS, the Volunteer Management Information System. We are pushing, and the government is stressing, Mary, on using that. And I'd like to introduce Mary, our new family support person from USAREC. And since you're here, can you explain what your position is?
Yes, my name is Mary Dash. I've replaced Rose, and I'm working with Frankie. Unfortunately, she's not here today. We're prepping for an event tomorrow. I'm working primarily with family programs. So basically, I'm supporting Frankie in ensuring things like the NAP accounts, funding, volunteer, just oversight of the family readiness, different programs at Frankie. It's not everything that she does, but it's more in a supportive role.
Can you explain some of the programs or services we would reach out to you for?
Well, things like primarily right now, since I am just getting on board and training, is the NAF account. we're looking at that. We want to make sure that that is done correctly. We're looking at how it's being spent, making sure that all the expenditures are documented in the right column, and if there is a question, sending that up so that we can make sure that it is legally ran through the JAG to ensure that you can utilize that funding. So right now, when I first got on board, that was one of my first projects. And right now I'm working on things like the family forum, the FRG committees, things supporting Terry, Mrs. Bachelet. So as I go down, I will get more and more into more programs. But basically, I think my role is a little bit more expansive from Rose's role. So as I go down, I am working with Frankie to ensure that I cover down on things like some of the areas that Jack has. So I'm a little bit more expansive, and that's probably what I have right now.
Can you answer, give us a few examples of some of the non-appropriated funds, which is NAF, what their issues are with spending them with volunteers, and what actually, by definition, for NAF, is a volunteer?
Well, the volunteer, they want someone who is on appointment orders. If that volunteer is on appointment orders, that is the individual that they're looking at supporting with the SSE NAF account. If the volunteer is a volunteer for the FRG, that is where we're finding some of the discrepancies, that you cannot use the NAF funding to utilize directly for the FRG, but you can utilize the NAF funding for incidental expenses and training for your statutory volunteer who is on appointment orders. So that's what I'm working on right
And
now.
what trainings, like maybe something like this, we could have brought them in, but we cannot buy food.
Well, definitely not food, and I think that's what we're looking at. The informal fund, of course, is things that you use, fundraising. You get into your fundraising activities, and then there's still challenges with fundraising because long ago, and the FRGs that I worked with in the past, the laws have changed. There were a time we could negotiate with vendors off post. All those things have changed. Now you are limited to on post. And again, if you're geo-dispersed, it's even more challenging because now you have to come up with creative ideas on fundraising so that you can help to buy things like your refreshments and so on that is not supported with government money. So it is extremely challenging. And I just say, ask the questions. It's best to ask the questions. We put our heads together and give you a good answer in the field than to move forward and try to fundraise on something that's later on, there's a little slap on the wrist or more. So please ask the question. If you're fundraising, that is certainly in our arena to run up to us so that we can help to ensure that it is okay to do that. And of course, the capping, the 1,000, and making sure you do not get to 10,000. They don't want FRGs to spend their time fundraising. They want them to concentrate on connecting and bonding and being the commander's eyes and ears. So it's a little bit different from the way I was interacting with FRG in the past. We would link with Walmart, and we had gifts, and life was just so good. We could just have lots of parties and food, and nobody questioned babysitting. You know, you go to your events and childcare, and now it's just like a minefield of every step there is a challenge. No, you can't have this. No, you can't have that. And it is frustrating for you all in the field, but run it up because there's always a creative way. There's always an exception to everything. There's an exception. And as long as we get it approved before it's done. That's all I have.
Omer, I really appreciate that you cleared some of that up. Some of the things that Chicago Battalion is doing, we have several companies, our Libertyville company, every training the soldiers have, they have burrito sales to the soldiers because after they do during their training, they break for lunch, they were giving that money to the local community. So they're selling to their own soldiers, collecting that money they were going to give to the local community anyway. The other thing is some of our reserve centers, when we go to them, we ask if at their drill weekend, can we utilize bake sales and candy sales, burrito sales, hot dog sales, even a breakfast when they're in processing on the weekends, a muffin and orange juice. So we are keeping it within the family, per se, the Army family. But we aren't going outside the community. The other thing is the car wash at the reserve centers are great because you're networking with your reserve centers anyway. And it's a great way to reach out with them and foster a relationship. And maybe some of their permanent staff are looking to join an FRG because the reserves that come on the weekend, they're not there permanently, but you do have staff manning the center, the reserve centers that are looking to reach out with the FRGs. And we're utilizing some of them also that are coming in and joining our events. So that's a great event.
Right, and Anne Marie, that's one of my tasks that I got from my boss, and that is to find creative ideas out in the field, people who've done this and utilized something that's unique, and it turned out really well. It was legal, so that we can share amongst ourselves, so we can simplify for new inbound FRG leaders, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel.
And the big key about utilizing any of your reserve centers or any of your Army AGR events, anything, it has to go through the commanders. So your commander you have to draft a memo or have someone in your support staff draft a memo requesting from commander to commander to utilize their event. Can we come and sell hot dogs or do a bake sale at your event? And 9 times out of 10, they love that because they don't have an up and standing FRG to welcome all their soldiers in processing on that weekend training. And they'd love to have people there doing that for them. Because a lot of your reserve centers aren't sending the wide open spaces, so it's hard to drive back, get some lunch, and then come back on time. So it's great to keep them on site and they can purchase from you. But again, you have to request commander to commander that you're going to utilize those events. And you want to broker that relationship, not just with a memo, but bring the memo by personally, introduce yourself. There should already be a relationship between the company commander and that reserve center command. And do it well in advance. Get their schedule. Get that on your calendar so that your volunteers know you're not dropping short notice on them. Because your volunteers aren't just going to show if you drop a short notice. Their lives are very busy now. Most of our spouses in USAREC work. Kathy, were you working when you were a company commander's wife at Dammers Grove?
I worked at yes, I worked. I worked and had about a 30-minute commute every day. So, and we still had a really good FRG. We were involved. But I'll say that, like I just read, there's a question on here from Claire saying how you get people involved. I said you just have to get out there and meet people. Do what Alex is doing in Chicago. Call them. I just say, hey, I'm Kathy. I'm just seeing if you need any help because we all have the same problems. Where is a great doctor? Where can I go get my eye? Where can I go see an eye doctor? What are the best school districts? Where can I find a house that's affordable, that's decent to live in? So we all have the same problems. Myself, where's good child care? So things like that's important. So I think reaching out and knowing we're the big our Army family's still out there, and our Army family needs each other. So any way you can help each other makes a big difference. So for Claire, her question saying how do you I say you just, I hate to say this, kind of like a telemarketer, keep calling them, keep letting them know you care. You know that, no, not bother, but tell them that you care. Hey, if there's anything, because eventually someone's going to have something they're going to need some help with, and you might be able to help them, and that's a way to get them involved. And like I said, cook for them. I like cooking for people. It works. Hey, food is a way to people's heart. You know, you get people to sit down together. You have a meal that if you're at a station and one of the spouses come in with a big pot of chili once a month, the other spouse will start realizing it, getting them all involved. So anything you can do, and that's how you can lead into the FRG and get more people involved. And it can be little things like, let's all take the kids to the zoo next week. It's a military. A lot of times they have discounts for military. Just knowing those things. I know Chicago area, Shed Aquarium, things like that. They're free to military. That's a great thing. You know, you wouldn't think to go downtown, but when you get something like that, it's worth it to drive downtown.
Where were you coming from?
Actually, we're coming from Arizona, which is very unusual, but my husband did a fellowships there. But I have also been working a lot through company commands, and I understand that it's hard to get people involved with FRG, but I agree with what Kathy just said. I think you have to think about your expectations with it. Start small. You know, don't expect that everyone's going to come right away to all your events, but if you start small and you start with fun things, and then maybe you add a little bit of FRG information in there, so it's an FRG event, more word will get out that, hey, maybe we should go. There's, you know, great connections that can be formed in those groups. So I agree, start small, make your phone calls, welcome people. Just those little things really help, and then it can expand. But just keep your expectations realistic, because we all know it's difficult.
Do you have anything to add?
Absolutely. I'm always learning when I come to these forums, so thank you, Kathy, for hosting today and having this. With the geodisbursement that we have, and with the centers that have the main mission, I guess I want to say, starting at the center level seems to be the key for getting your FRGs and the company level. At the lowest level is where you're going to meet the families the most. And again, back to the welcoming, I think that what both of the ladies have just shared is, if you show people that you care, they may not respond initially, but if you just continue to show that and to drop notes, I know it doesn't always need to be a phone call. You can do text messages. Hey, I was just thinking about you today. I saw that you had, go back to the weather thing, I saw you had a storm where you live. Are you guys okay? That type of thing. If you continue to do that over and over again, you know, maybe you'll get one person that wants to be involved, and that one person is more than you had yesterday. So you just keep doing that, and the center level, having the potlucks and all that type of thing, that is a fabulous way to start, because then they're in a group environment and they're not feeling quite so maybe intimidated, because it's a one-on-one meeting and you're all in the same place. And I just echo what both of the other ladies said. Just showing people that you care is the biggest thing that will bring people together. So, but also you need because that helps a lot. So if you can get someone else to be that person that can help you, not to feel like you're doing it all by yourself. So thanks again for participating today.
And just remember, you're going to have a lot of volunteer burnout, because like Harry was saying, that battle buddy is really great, because you send out so much, you throw so much bread on the water, and you get not one nibble. But if you get one nibble, at least you got that one person in. And then if that networking goes out further, whether you're doing it on Facebook or you post those pictures on Facebook, look, we did this great family-friendly potluck event. These people are going to see that they missed out on events. Utilize that media. Have people tweeting that, hey, so-and-so just had a baby and we posted their baby's picture on, you know, on Facebook, and they loved it. Oh, our baby got a little birth certificate from the commander, because we've been doing birth certificates. They love to have that, put it in their baby album. That didn't cost us anything. The battalion prints, or the company prints the birth certificate. You award that to them. It's a nice photo. It's great. It makes them feel that you appreciate them, that you know they just had a child, and then they remember that. Maybe later, after they're up and running around, they'll show up at your FRG event, which is great. Maybe you can have that FRG baby shower. We've had quite a few FRG baby showers where we didn't buy a whole lot. We just sort of had the cake, we had balloons, and you just sort of got people networked. We gave them the new baby information, which is the lullaby tape CD, along with the screen-free parenting and things like that. Some tools and networking things and things that we just got from within the system, from Army One Source and things, and we put together a kit and gave that to the family. So it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. You don't have to buy things for people. You've got stuff in the system that you can utilize that they like. Anybody have any other questions out there? We are probably going to move on to our next presenter if we have no further questions. And we're going to be doing next operational security and with family readiness groups, which in today's environment is very important for you to understand what you should be sharing out there, the information, who you're sharing it with. All right? Whichever chair, yeah, because they got the camera coming around. Just introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rodney Herter. Greg Smith was supposed to give this class, but he got called away at the last minute, so y'all lucked out and got me.
Yes.
We're going to go through Operation Security, or what's called OPSEC. And it's just like anything else. OPSEC, you're only as strong as your weakest link. If you're not putting the information out there, but the person 2 doors down is putting it all out there, it doesn't matter what you do. Those slides. And this is some of the stuff we're going to go through. Who the bad guys are. Go ahead. Next one. Okay, there we go. A couple of ones we're going to key on: terrorists and criminals. These are the ones that you want to be concerned with. All these people have an intent. All these adversaries have an intent to harm us in one way or another, but without the capability, that's not going to happen. For y'all, it's mostly the terrorists and criminals, and the criminals are looking for your information, basically. Next one. Critical sensitive information, this is what they're looking for. 90% of it is unclassified. It's basic stuff that you talk about at McDonald's, Walmart, the gas station, stuff that's published in the papers, stuff they see on TV. That's where 90% of foreign countries and our adversaries get their intelligence from. And we'll go to the next one. Critical information. For us, it's our personnel and our families, some of our security processes, the way we do things. PII, personal identifying information. For y'all, it's your social security number, your bank accounts, your addresses, your date of birth. There have been a few instances of fraud out there where people have been taken advantage of. Somebody's run up accounts for them without their knowledge. And that's how they did it. They found their PII. They got their confidential information. That's not something that you want to put out there for everyone to have. And it doesn't have to be the person that lives in your town or in your state that does it. It could be someone on the other side of the world in today's day and age who collects your PII and opens up a credit card for you. Some other things you don't want to talk about. specific TDY dates, what your travel plans are, where you're going, what you're doing. Next. How do they get it? It's easy. We give it to them. We love to talk. We love to talk about ourselves. We love to talk about our family. We love to talk about our friends. We'll tell anyone, just about anything they want to know. All they have to do is ask the right question. It's when you're talking to strangers, you need to be aware of what type of information you're giving them and what they could possibly do with it. Conversations in public areas. I was in Walmart 2 weeks ago. Found out way too much about a woman by standing behind her in line while she was talking on a cell phone. And it happens all the time. Two guys go out to lunch, talk about work. Well, guess what? They're talking about work in a public place. It doesn't have to be classified information. They could be talking about their upcoming deployment to Fort Polk or their TDY trip to Fort Knox in 2 weeks for the change of command. Well, you know, if I'm a criminal and they're not going to be home, that's something good to know. And it's not that hard to follow someone, find out where they live or where they work, especially in this country because people aren't used to it and they're not aware of it. Web pages and email. You put way too much information out there on web pages. Social networking. Once you click enter or click send, it's out there. There's no getting it back. There's no recall. Yeah, there's a recall, but you know what? It's out there on a network someplace. And it can be found. If you delete it, it doesn't just go away. It can be dug up. And we share too much information. Say you're, I'm going to read a little scenario here. So you answer the phone and give someone too much information. Someone calls looking for Joe. You say, no, he's not here. He's in Bermuda for the next 2 weeks. Since the kids were out of school, he took his family for a vacation. Can I take a message? The caller need to know all that? No, they just needed to know that Joe wasn't there. But now they know that Joe's going to be gone for 2 weeks. The kids are gone for 2 weeks. And the house is pretty much going to be empty for 2 weeks. So you want to be aware of what you're telling people. How do they get it? Criminals, terrorists, they don't care how they get it, whether the methods are legal or illegal. Internet, we hit that. Social engineering, communications interception, elicitation. This is very simple, and most people don't even realize that they've been hit up when it happens. Say you're use an example that the CID uses, or the 902nd MI guys use. You're at the gas station filling up your vehicle with gas. You got the little bumper sticker, or the little stickers on the back with the man, the wife, 3 kids, a dog, and a cat. I come up and say, hey, you got a dog and a cat in the same house? You say, yeah. Do they get along? Well, yeah. And then I start asking questions about your kids. You think I'm concerned or that I actually care about you. But next, I'm going to follow up with questions about, oh, I see you got this sticker. You must work on a military post. Yeah. Well, where do you work? I was looking for a job. Y'all have any openings? And you see how it kind of falls along? It just rolls right into it. People don't even realize what's going on. We'll go to the next one. And this is what you need to do. Be alert, be suspicious, and be aware. Not everyone out there is out to hurt you. 95% of them are probably innocent. But there are some bad people out there. And that's just something that you want to be aware of. Not everyone is your friend. Even phone conversations in public, and Facebook. Those are big ones, real big ones. That's where a lot of information is leaked. And it's not just about work. It's not just about your family. I mean, it could be about your private life. Like I said, once you hit send, it's out there. Countermeasures. These are some of the things you can do to prevent it. Don't answer strangers' questions. If he's asking for directions, that's fine. If he wants to know about your family, why? He doesn't need to know about all that. You can be polite, you can be nice, but you don't have to tell him, give away the farm. Discussing work in public areas, cell phones. Think about your public conversations, people. Just because you're having a private conversation with your best friend doesn't mean that the 5 people standing in line behind you can't hear you. And then shredded paper. A lot of us, like I said, we give it away. We take our bills, our statements, our bank statements, and we throw them out. It's real easy for someone to go through a garbage can and pick that stuff out. You should shred it or find another way to get rid of it. Next one. And you want to think, if you wouldn't want someone like this to have it, why would you put it out there? If you don't want them to have it, don't put it out there. Because you never know who's going to end up with it. Next one. And once again, our POC is Greg Smith. He's an anti-terrorism officer, force protection person for the Brigade headquarters. Every battalion has an anti-terrorism force protection person. And if you want more information on the subject, you can get with them. Are there any questions?
Can you explain, we get emails all the time that say they're from the VA, they're from TRICARE, DFAS, from the Department of Defense Finance. What should we look for to know whether that email is legitimate or not?
The URL. When it comes in, look at who it's coming from or the site that it's coming from. You don't want to click on links if you don't know where they're going. And you can always pick up the phone and call. If it's from the VA, you got an email from them, they're looking for information, pick up the phone and call them. At least you know you're talking to them and not someone who's out there fishing or just trying to gain your information.
And also, we've got a lot of groups on Facebook now that are stating that they're a military wives association or a military friendly group. How do we know whether they're military friendly and we should be chatting online with all these people?
If you don't know and you're not sure, the best answer would be don't. And another thing online, Military Family, Military Wives Club, we're going to get together and have dinner at Miguel's Mexican restaurant at 7 o'clock on Friday night. Everyone on this site's welcome. Well, hey, I know where 15 or 20 civilians are going to be. We're married to someone in the military. I don't have to go there to kill them. I don't have to go there to hurt them. I can pick the table next to them and sit, listen to what they're talking about, because odds are they're going to give some information that is useful. And if you have questions, we all have IT managers at battalions also. You can make use of them.
So any of our spouses could contact any of the
Yes.
any of you and ask a question.
Yes.
Now, if they're setting up a Facebook page or something, could they contact you about what they should be putting on there and what they should?
That's typically the advertising and public affairs people, correct?
Okay.
That's who handles it for us, is advertising public affairs. Or if they want specific guidelines, yes, they could call up here and talk to me or talk to Greg. And we can give you specific guidelines of what you can put and what you cannot put. I know it's difficult with our Facebook pages. You're going to have a future soldier function. You want to put it on your Facebook page, but just keep in mind that you're telling everyone where all those future soldiers are going to be, what time they're going to be there, how many are going to be there, and what they're doing. Just be aware of that fact when you put stuff like that out there.
Do we have any questions from the group for Rodney? What's that question you're asking? I don't see any on there.
I did my job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're moving swiftly through the schedule. So our next is going to be Inga Num. We're going to give her a few minutes here to catch her breath because she just got back from getting. Also, I want to remind you this is a working lunch. So if we see you munching on a sandwich or you see us, it's okay. This is this is how all of our meetings work now. So I would like to introduce Inga Nunn. She's going to be talking to us about domestic violence. And this is a serious issue for all of our soldiers coming back from deployments and reintegrating, or even with our 79 Romeos who may have been embedded in a community for 5 years or something, now they have to move away from family or to a new location, and stress builds up in the household. So she's going to give you a lot of good tips, things to look for, and who to reach out if you suspect anything. Yeah, you're up.
Hi, how's everybody doing? I just did a subway run. That was a new experience for me, and I think I failed. So all I need is the first line, and then can you get on? That's okay. What I'd like to do is, can we get on? I have it. I was just sorting them through.
Well, I'll grab the sheets and grab.
Right. Anyway, the most important thing that all of you need to know is that we have a very good system established with all different Department of Defense case review committees. So what happens when you have a domestic violence case in the battalion, basically what you do is you connect with me, and I will connect you with all the support systems in your actual area, so we can provide the families with the best support possible. And I know your SFAs, I thank you so much for always supporting this program. And the Chicago Battalion and all the other battalions, what they did during Child Abuse Prevention Month, we actually used the national symbol, the pinwheels, and all of us we put them out, and we took pictures, and we put them on Facebook. And what we have here at 3rd Brigade is we continue sending out the different numbers, but the only number you really need to know is my cell phone and my work phone. And I have established liaison with all of the Department of Defense support systems that deal with domestic violence. And I know that one of the important things is, please report. You have a reporting requirement. Are you able to get to the one where I put the reporting requirements? Right? So this is good to know about. And go further because I want to talk about, keep on going. Okay, back. This is the thing that you as members of this brigade are totally aware of. You will be able to see when this kind of situation occurs with your families, because when we don't make mission in recruiting command, and when we receive many new requirements, then sometimes it's taken home to the family. So you, as the people that are part of this brigade, have a great responsibility, and all of you need to report. And while in this brigade, I have had cases where the reporting was early, where a station commander noticed that some things were going on in the family. They gave me a call. They said, hey, how can we support this family? So what we did is we hooked them up with the right people. And that is why in our brigade, we actually have 2 PFCs, the personnel financial counselors and the mental health counselors, because we want to catch them before this explosion occurs. And let's see, what I want to do is I want you to, let's see, where is it? Can you go to the reporting one? It should be, it's about the last, we don't, back to that one. Back one more. All right, this is something that is new, and a domestic violence victim may come to the Soldier and Family Assistance Program Manager and say, I'm concerned about my family, but I don't want to report anything. Then the Soldier and Family Assistance Program Managers are excellent people to refer to the right places so an incident does not occur. All right, go ahead, Sergeant Allen. These are all we're all connected. These hotlines connect to us, and they report to the correct people that can manage the situation. Go ahead. And it explains, it's a very good explanation of all the unrestricted and restricted reporting. Okay, next. Next. Go ahead. Keep on going. Go through all of these, please. There we go. That's what I mean. All right, so here we have a snapshot on what the Family Advocacy Program does. We all work together. We have teams everywhere, and like I said, we're connected with all the Department of Defense family advocacy programs. Go ahead. And this is what we're doing. We have these trainings, and people get tired of seeing me but I believe if we repeat, people will connect it and deal with it in a more healthy way. Go ahead. This is what we're doing. We all work together. We're a team, and I'd always do a cheer. Together, everyone accomplishes more. Go team. Next. All right, this is all of us are mandated reporters. And sometimes what I have to explain again and again is the committee deals with clinical treatment options. It is not a criminal body, the case review committee. And we now have the same requirements Department of Defense wide. So before, there were sometimes things would slip through the cracks because the Air Force would handle it or the Navy would handle it. But now we're all on the same sheet of music, and that's how we work together and try to support the families before an explosion occurs. Go ahead. And this is it. It is something that occurs everywhere, in any situation, and if we just accept that it is something that we have support systems for, then we can do something about it. And I think think that's it. Uh, are there any questions from the field on this program?
So Inga, if I'm out in the civilian community, who do I go to? The company commander and everyone's so far away. What do I do?
You can call Army One Source, and they will accept your report, and they then will connect with headquarters USAREC. They will find out which area you are in, and then we will connect you with the local advocacy centers, because so far every state of the union has an advocacy center, and advocacy centers are connected to shelters, because sometimes people have to go to a shelter in order to be safe at that time. So we connect you with all the right people, and we are very fortunate that the Family Advocacy Program in the Chicago area, this is the Navy, and they support us and work with us, and we hook them up with providers that are trained in domestic violence counseling in all of our footprint.
So I'm not sure if it's really domestic violence or that just that my spouse and I are shouting a lot, we're losing our tempers with each other. How can I prevent it from escalating? What are some services I can use?
Once again, Military One Source or Army One Source can hook you up with providers that it has not gone to domestic violence, no police involvement, and you can then go to counseling. And what we have found in this situation is it doesn't necessarily mean that the husband and wife have to go together. If one of the people is having a concern, they can start going to counseling. And with these counselors will give them tips on how to de-escalate, on how to be calm, push the pause button before you have an explosion. And we have that program within USAREC, the Scream Free program. And you can, they can connect with their SFAs, and they can receive books and counseling before it comes to the explosion.
Now, on the post, I would always go to the chaplain.
Right.
What do I do now? There's only one in the brigade. How do I see him? Or
actually, their numbers are available, and you can call them anytime. They are available to you. So is the psychologist. If you just want to talk to someone and ventilate about a situation. And once again, we always have the numbers posted for our MFLEX, Military Family Life Consultants.
So our military family life consultants come through twice a year. They'll stay for 45 days. And if I tell them anything, is everyone going to find out?
Not if it does not deal with endangering a life, or like if you are a danger to somebody else, or if you're a danger to yourself, no one will find out about the counseling sessions.
Great. Now the other programs we have are the family wellness under Strong Bonds through the chaplain. Those programs come through each battalion every year. We also have the married couples program. So dual military or just anyone can go to that as long as you are married. You cannot be cohabitating. That's the one stipulation in that marriage retreat under the Strong Bonds program for the government. And that's given off-site at a hotel. So again, it takes you away from the pressures of the military. so you can reconnect with your spouse or your soldier, just to get off all the beaten path.
And we also have, because I believe that this training, we have also boss programs where we do these retreats for the single people and we deal with relationship issues. What we do in those events is discuss these things. And even if they are not thinking about getting married or cohabitating with someone, they will get tools they can use in all relationships, because that's what it's all about. It truly is all about the relationships that we have within our area.
So if you're not getting emails about the marriage retreats or the wellness retreats, send to your SFAs, ask when the ones are coming in your area. We don't set the schedule, the chaplains send out the schedule to us. You're here for 3 years. You should really take advantage of one of the events. We don't send the same couples every year. That's one of the mandates on there, so that if they've been, they're not going to get to go to the event every 3 years. So put yourself on the list, make time for yourself or your family. And the family wellnesses, you've gone ahead and co-instructed, facilitated with the chaplains. And how did the families do with that? What age group participated?
We have the family wellness training. Children 8 and up come to this training, and our children are so resilient. And I always teach the first segment, which is parents are in charge. So by the end of the weekend, when I speak to the group and I say, who's in charge? All the children say, the parents, Miss Nunn. And that is so important. And one of them is about negotiating. So what we do is we assign parents that are not their biological parents. We pick one man, one woman, and then have the siblings pick them out of the group. And children always love to do role plays. And then we actually we teach them how to negotiate with their parents. And that's an important lesson that all of them can benefit from. And they learn to push the pause button and not have an explosion. And so it's a very excellent program. And I believe it's the best prevention tool we have.
All of these programs are available, but if people don't participate and sign up to go to the events, we'll lose the funding. Just recently, we were losing the funding until the general got involved and said, you know, our people aren't mobilizing, but they're demobbed. They're coming back from deployments and such. And Terry, he did a lot for us, didn't he, to say, bring that program back on board, because the chaplains wanted to put the money on the post, which is unfortunate that they forget about us out here. But we've also reached out to the reserve and AGR units, and we're utilizing them also. They've got openings in some of their marriage retreats, so your SFAs have the dates on those. So if you haven't received those, contact them. There's dates at those marriage retreats, some of them in Nebraska, Iowa, all of our footprint here in the Midwest, that they're asking for participants, because not all their reservists can fill their billet. So they want to keep their funding by putting a family in there or soldiers. So, you know, hook up with your SFAs, ask the question, where are the retreats? Because lots of times when you in process, we're asking the soldiers for your emails, and I cannot tell you how many times I've gotten bogus emails. So you connect up and get on the emailing, email your SFA, and ask them the information on there on all these events so that you can utilize them. And always, if you don't know who to reach out to, there's 800 numbers everywhere. Inga, you want to put out your number?
My cell phone is 888-228-6098,
Do I have any questions from the field on any of the information here that Inga's put out about any of the domestic violence program? Just remember, just because you're a single, even your single soldiers can be charged with domestic violence if they cohabitate, and we're getting a high number of single soldiers in the footprint now that are picking roommates from Craigslist and some other interesting areas. So reach out to some of your single soldiers and let them know that choosing a roommate is an important step, because they're used to being in the barracks and they're getting into some situations that they really shouldn't, with some new roommates that maybe are not the most upstanding or upholding the soldier values.
And we have had cases where a live-in girlfriend called the police.
The conference time will expire shortly.
And that is, so we need to be aware of that, and the commanders need to be aware of that.
Any questions?
I have a question over here.
Yes.
What are the guidelines for reporting for FRG volunteers? If a family member tells you about a problem or you notice signs of a serious problem, what should volunteers do?
It's connect with your SFA, connect with me, I'm available, and it's always good to report.
So can they call to see that their company commander or first sergeant, their center commander?
If you report it through your chain of command, they will know who to refer it to. And we're all mandated reporters. But if you feel I shouldn't involve myself in this, please call me. I'm the subject matter expert. I will guide you. I'll be glad to guide you to the right people, and I'll be glad to be the bad guy reporter if that's what is necessary. So does that answer the question?
So if they call you, you don't have to give my name that I'm the FRG person that reported it.
No.
It will be your
It can be reported anonymously, and it will be handled through channels. And that's what we've been teaching is bystander intervention. You have the power to stop these very violent things from occurring. Connect with the people that are in charge of the programs, and we will guide you to do the right thing, and you don't even have to give your name.
Right. Any other questions out there? Thanks for that question and putting that out, because I know there's a lot of people that were probably asking the same thing. All right, Anna, thanks.
Okay.
Maybe you can sit down for a minute.
Oh.
Running.
It's good fun.
I'm sorry if I put you on the spot.
I have to be prepared.
We're going to move on to our next topic now, which we are doing summer safety with Captain Schiffer. You're up next, sir. We are very happy to be doing summer safety. Again, a lot of things out there that maybe you're not aware of, or maybe you just forgot. So these are good tips that you can share with your family. And we're happy to have Captain Schaefer here. Some of you, the conference line dropped off. Is that correct, Debbie? Are you leaving, Terry?
No, I'll be back.
Oh, okay.
I have to run something.
No. Are we off the conference line, the fire phone, did it drop off and then we gotta dial in again, or does it say your conference line time is up?
Oh, yes. The people that are dialed into it can dial back into it again.
Okay, so those of you that if you've got volunteers that are emailing you saying I got disconnected, please dial back into the conference line.
Please enter the conference ID. Please enter your PIN, please.
You have been requested to join a conference. Please hold.
We're having a little technical difficulty with the slide. We'll be right with you. We are going on to summer safety. You know, it's been running really good until just before you came in, sir. So you've got the IT jitters on it. This has been a learning curve. So many systems going at once.
Can't get good
Pull the slide deck to the desktop first and then download it.
That's what I just did. That's a good idea, sir.
What happened during lunchtime, so everybody can just keep it. There it goes.
Tina's trying to get on.
There.
She keeps sending me does that work, what is that? The wrong email address, I don't know what. You have her email address somewhere? Yes, Nashville, but she said it says FA Nashville, but every time she sends it to me, it gets kicked back. It's the wrong email address. She's on there, but I need to give her the link so because she wants to get on the Google Hangout.
Oh. Probably need to send her her regular email.
Hold on, I want this stuff for you.
Because flying, more than
Okay. Yes. So you can go. We're ready?
Everyone's connected.
Yes.
Right. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being with us this afternoon. My name is Captain Josh Shaver. I'm the 3rd Brigade Company Commander here at Fort Knox for 3rd Brigade. Appreciate all you guys inviting me out to speak to you. Just to give you a little background about myself and who I am. This year, me and my family are going to celebrate our 20th year in the Army. We've been around the country, been deployed a few times, 4 to be exact, and finally got here to Fort Knox this past year. Been here about a year, and just going to share with you a safety brief, summer safety. My wife is not here. She'd asked me to apologize. Her and my daughter are doing some job interviews. She starts college this summer. My daughter does, so bear with us. My wife did want me to share some things with you. Then I have carried her notes forward. She has been the FRG leader for 3 different companies before deployments, during, and after deployment. So she had some notes for me, and I'll try to share that with you the best I can. The purpose of this briefing this afternoon, we're going to talk about accident prevention. This presentation is going to focus on and off-duty accidents, mainly off-duty accidents that the Army continues to see soldiers lose their life over. They are preventable, although we can't take the risk out of our life every day. We're going to continue to look at what we can do as a collective group, as a leadership team, and see where we can go from there. Next slide, please. If we have some technical difficulties with these videos, they are linked. Just bear with us. We'll try to explain the best we can. But what you see in front of you on this slide is 123 soldiers, and this is the number of soldiers that we average lose every year from fiscal year 09 to fiscal year 13. So that's just a visual picture there of what we lose every year, averaging for the past 5 years. As an Army team, we can change this outcome through soldier family leader development and engagement, and by using some simple proactive measures to mitigate the risk associated with off-duty activities. Every soldier is a valuable member, as you all know, and just take a look at what happens to our formation when we don't embrace safety as a frame of mind.
You have been requested to join a conference. Please hold.
All right, looks like the video is not going to work. What the video actually does is it takes a few soldiers out of the video every few seconds, and just shows you how that group disappears. Sorry about that, video is not working. Slide. This is what we apply on and off duty 24/7. No news here. We do want to integrate our warrior ethos into our off-duty activities, and this is something that command teams and leadership teams can apply on and off duty. Slide. All right, alcohol. As you'll see throughout this presentation, alcohol is often a common denominator in a lot of the accidents. Since fiscal year 09, there have been nearly 300 off-duty accidents in the Army where alcohol was confirmed or suspected. We're not, like I said before, we're not going to be able to take the risk out of our life off duty. But let's begin with some looks at alcohol and what they do, and then we'll jump into some water-related incidents. But most alcohol-related incidents involve private motor vehicles. But each year, soldiers also die while handling weapons, boating, swimming, fishing, and participating in other activities. Again, alcohol plays a very important role in this activity. So perhaps we can think about that when we organize activities off duty. Perhaps have family days where alcohol is not involved at all. Slide. For the water video, we'll see if we can get to play. Doesn't look like it's going to play, so I apologize again. It looks like we're just going to have to skip these videos. We're going to make these videos available online and send those out on the CD, so we'll be able to get these videos out. Apologize for this this activity. When participating in any water-related activity, it's important to identify the hazards and to know your limits. In just a few minutes, even strong swimmers can tire, and cold water can also reduce your stamina, and you'll also become unable to help others in cold water. Just a few minutes. So from fiscal year 09 to 13, some more stats for you. We lost an average of 7 soldiers per year off duty in water-related accidents. Remember, rank doesn't make you immune. Nearly half of the water-related fatalities in the last 5 years involved the leader. So let's talk about some preventive strategies. In addition to wearing a life jacket and limiting or avoiding alcohol consumption, let's make sure that we know how deep the water is before we dive. When swimming in rivers, lakes, and oceans, be aware of swift currents, undertows. And in addition, 37 soldiers that died in water-related incidents in the past 5 years. Another 4 suffered permanently disabling injuries from diving in waters too shallow. So there are some hazards in just regards to water and swimming. Next slide. I'm going to jump right into boating. The U.S. Coast Guard ranks operator inattention, improper lookout, and operator inexperience, machinery failure, and excessive speed as the top 5 contributing factors in recreational boating accidents. However, alcohol use is the leading contributing factor in the fatalities in boating accidents. So you're starting to see a repeating occurrence, and that's alcohol and off-duty deaths So again, as leaders, we need to figure out how we can reduce the importance and non-promotion of alcohol in our off-duty events. We're not going to get rid of it, but do the best we can. Boating safety, next slide. Here's another example of some currents, and I wish we had the videos to show you, but it just shows the currents, the rip currents, and the ways to escape wakes of boater. For instance, the picture you see on your screen is an example of what the motor of a boat will do and how it can get out. So if you're caught in that, or you're caught near a dam or any structure that's spitting water out at a rapid pace and a rapid velocity and amount of volume, this is one way to show inexperienced swimmers or even strong swimmers how to escape that current and get out of that. Next slide. Pedestrian video, we don't have it, but it's going to show you how sometimes people do not pay attention before they cross the road. Continuing area of concern and accidents the past 5 years are soldiers struck by cars or trains while walking along roads and railways. In the past 5 years, 33 soldiers have died off duty in pedestrian accidents. Just because there's a pedestrian is supposed to have the right-of-way doesn't necessarily mean that they will be given the right-of-way. Never assume drivers are paying attention. Always make eye contact with the driver before crossing in front of a vehicle. A courtesy wave also allows the driver to know that you see them and acknowledges they see you. Also remember that we take to take care while assisting others. Several soldiers lost their lives after being struck by vehicles while attempting to assist stranded motorists. Make sure you are in your vehicle and you're moved as far as possible from traffic, and use the appropriate warnings such as hazard triangles, flares, or anything else to alert oncoming traffic. It's also a good idea, if you can, to carry a reflective belt. If you want to implement that across your command, that might be a good idea, or in your personal vehicle, or some kind of type of vest. This will increase your visibility to passing motorists. The emerging trend of texting and walking has become another major issue and has led to a significant increase of careless but preventable accidents. Distracted walking can also be deadly. So let's have situational awareness, and I know in the Army it's against regulation to walk and talk and text on your cell phone in uniform, but it might be something we can implement off-duty as well, some type of restriction just for safety's sake. Our next slide, we're going to jump into privately owned weapons. We have a video, but it's not going to show. Next slide. Unintended discharges. Negligent discharges are a major concern on duty, but they also happen off duty. In fact, 16 soldiers have lost their lives off duty to negligent discharges with privately owned weapons in the past 5 years. 11 of those 16 fatal accidents occurred in the last 2 fiscal years, so you can see this is a growing problem. In 5 of the 16 fatal negligent discharge accidents since fiscal year 09, an individual deliberately pointed a weapon at themselves or someone else, believing the weapon to be unloaded or loaded with dummy rounds. It is imperative that you always follow the basic tenets of safety weapons handling. One of them is never point a weapon at anyone else. Alcohol was also known or suspected in 69% of these accidents. The hours that were able to be logged were 1900 to 0330. So a lot of these accidents happen in the evening and early morning hours. Not all weapon operates in the same manner. So proficiency with your assigned military weapon does not always translate into expert in your own private weapon. So it might be something you can hold a class about, or at the next safety brief, including your stand-down days. Privately owned weapons accidents commonly occur in social settings. If you see someone handling a weapon while under the influence of alcohol or in a public setting, everyone can step in and say, hey, that's not a very smart idea, don't do that. You could save the life of a friend, family member, or even your own. Next slide, please. An acronym that might be helpful, not only with our off-duty soldiers, but their family members as well, is the acronym THINK. And the T, treat every weapon as if it is loaded. H, handle every weapon with care. I, identify the target before you fire. N, never point the muzzle of anything you don't intend to shoot. And K, keep the weapon on safe and your finger off the trigger until you intend to fire. Now we'll look at some non-water sporting activities. Next slide. Before we go any further, I know I'm going kind of fast because we have a lot to get through for safety. And this is not to downplay the importance of safety. It's very important. But I'm going to take a break here. And if anybody has a question over what we've already discussed, or if you see trends that you'd like to share with the group, at this time on what we've covered already with the alcohol, probably on weapons, pedestrians, boating, and water accidents. If anyone has any information or any questions, I'll take a 30-second pause here and let you come online. And if not, we'll just continue on with other safety points.
Can you talk about how to safeguard the weapons in the home with the children? A lot of the spouses ask about that.
Good point. It was asked that if we could highlight maybe safety of weapons inside the home, possibly with children. And you would need to check with your local police station, but here in Kentucky, the local police station gives out free weapon locks. You just need to go to your local police station. If it's available, call first and see if it's available. And what we'd recommend here at the headquarters is that you put a weapons lock on every one of your weapons, shotguns, pistols, and rifles. That is the best way for safety in the home. Without the children getting that key to the safety lock and then actually getting ammo and then loading it, that's the best way. Other than that, education to your children and secure the weapon out of their reach will be the other two to make the top three. So the best preventive measure is a weapons lock that you usually come now. I think they come standard with a weapon if you buy a new weapon. The second one would be to educate your children and family members and soldiers on that. And the third is just keep those things locked away from them. You can keep them in a safety deposit or one of those safe boxes that you buy from Walmart or a store that's concrete fireproof boxes, or a gun safe or anything like that where you can secure that weapon away from children. But just keeping them away from children. If the children can't get to it, obviously they can't fire it. So those are the best three that we know of. There's also other methods as well. But if anybody has any other questions, come online. They'd be more than happy to answer.
Discuss the motorcycle.
All right, so no questions so far. We're going to continue on now with some sports-related videos. And, of course, the video is not going to work. Next slide. Go back, please. Is there a slide right after this one? Information slide? Okay. All right, well, let me just read to you some notes here we have for sports-related activities. In the past 5 years, 7 soldiers have lost their lives while participating in off-duty sports, such as hiking, rock climbing, skateboarding, parachuting, and bicycling. Sports and recreational activities commonly lead to injuries, but participants can mitigate the risk associated with these activities by being actively involved in the preventive process. Earlier when we talked about boating, we mentioned filling on a float plane. That was with the video that we're going to show how to escape from those currents. Having something similar when participating in other activities is a good idea. What we mean by that is having an active plan that would reduce injuries other than reactive. So have a proactive attitude toward what you're doing. And that what we mean by that is if you're rock climbing or if you're bicycling, train your team to think, what would I do if this happened? What would I do if that happened? And that's kind of the process that we'd like to instill in soldiers. If they're riding a bike on a mountain, what would I do if I fell this way? Or what would I do if my tire came off on the mountain bike? What would I do if I got hurt right now? How would I communicate with other people? So having that kind of proactive plan is what we're speaking here about having a similar plan. If something happens to you, they'll know to start looking for you at what time. If something happened to me, I told someone I would call them at this time. If I didn't call them, then they're going to come look for me. That's the kind of plan that we're looking for and the thinking process that we'd like to instill, not only in our soldiers, but our family as well. Next slide, please. Next slide. Home safety. We'll touch on that for a second. Most people picture their home as a safe haven when, in fact, accidents mostly happen in our homes. On duty, whether you're in the motor pool, the field, or at the range, or participating in some other mission, you typically apply the risk management process to identify hazards. This acts as a combat multiplier and assists you in successfully accomplishing your mission. When you leave work, however, you should continue to use those risk management strategies to identify and mitigate hazards in your home and during your off-duty activities. Let's look at some hazards while we are at home that we can find in our home. There are multiple hazards in and around our home, from the kitchen to the bathroom and even in the backyard. The top 5 leading causes of accidents and deaths in the home are falls, poisonings, fires and burns, choking, and drowning. According to the National Safety Council, falls result in approximately 8.9 million emergency room visits annually. Everyone is at risk. Slips, trips, and falls can happen anywhere, but the most common areas are those prone to wet surfaces, cluttered hallways, ladders, and stairs. Now let's talk about some less obvious hazards in the home. Next slide. All right. Top 5 hidden home hazards. These hidden hazards cited by the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission are associated with products that you may be using every day, but are unaware of the dangers they pose. Small, powerful magnets, if swallowed, can attract inside the body and block, twist, or tear intestines. If you think your child has swallowed a magnet, seek medical attention immediately. Be aware of the latest safety recalls and get dangerous products out of the home. You can sign up for recall notices at the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission website, and that's www.cpsc.gov. That's Charlie, Papa, Sierra, Charlie.gov. www.charliepapasierracharlie.gov. And they'll give you a list and recall notices if you sign up for that website. Kids will climb, we know that. We have a lot of top-heavy furniture in our homes. The TVs, stoves can tip over and crush young children. Make them all more stable by installing anchors and brackets against the back wall. A lot of the times you can get a cheap bracket at the hardware store or even your housing area if you live on post somewhere, and you can screw those appliances right into the wall stud, and that way they won't fall over or tip over. Never place a crib or a playpen near a window blind. To prevent strangulation, use cordless blinds or install the safety devices on blind cords. And install window guards or stop to prevent falls from open or partially open windows. Suction from a pool or spa drain can also be powerful enough to trap a child or adult underwater. Inspect pools and spas for missing or broken drain covers as well. Next slide. Grilling safety. A fire in a grill cooking hot dogs and burgers is also a welcome sight for a cookout. But fire anywhere else can make your barbecue memorable for the wrong reasons. Here are some safety tips, outdoors only. Grilling indoors or in an enclosed space such as a tent poses both a fire hazard and a risk of exposing occupants to toxic gases and potential asphyxiation. Periodically clean the trays below the grill so that the heat from the grill cannot ignite them. Never add charcoal starter fluid when coals or kindling are already on fire. Check the gas cylinder hose for leak, and a light soap and water solution applied to the hose will quickly reveal escaping propane by releasing bubbles. The more soap you use, the more bubbles you have. Also on this, we'd like to touch on frying turkeys and a lot of deep fryers now that are used during the holidays, predominantly during the holidays. A lot of people don't know how to use them for the first time they get them. An experienced cooker obviously knows more than an inexperienced cooker, but anytime you put a frozen product in boiling grease, it will explode. The water reacts with the oil and makes it bubble up, and it's actually the grease coming over the side of the fryer that catches those open flames, that catches on fire. So not only will the frozen meat pop off grease and water as that cold water and ice meets the boiling grease, but as that grease catches that open flame, that's going to cause the entire pot of grease to catch on fire. Not a good day. And there's a bottle of propane connected just to the end of it, about a foot away. Next slide, please. Fire safety. Every year, soldiers and family members are seriously injured or killed in home fires. 9 soldiers in the past 5 years, along with 3 family members, lost their lives in residential fires. Calls of reported home fires, and oftentimes what you can do is contact your local fire department, and they also offer information packets. They offer mittens, fireproof mittens, and different things for the handles of pots and pans sometimes that you can add to your home. It's a partnership. I know Fort Knox Fire Department does it here. I'm not sure if it's just specific to Fort Knox, but if you contacted your local fire departments out there, maybe they have a program similar to that where they can come and give a seminar, hand out some fire preventive freebies to you and your families, and just help us reduce that risk in our homes. But according to the National Fire Protection Association, cooking equipment fires account for 43% of all reported home fires, along with 38% of home fires and injuries, and 16% of fire deaths. So cooking equipment is a large part of the dangers out there in our homes. So let's try to look at that. If we're trying to mitigate our risk to our family members, let's see if we can identify that and identify those in our homes, the dangerous cooking equipment. Remember that old adage, the cook who leaves the kitchen burns. Unattended cooking is by far the leading contributing factor to these fires. Don't be distracted. It isn't worth the risk to your family, or your fellow soldiers. According to the National Fire Protection Association, more than half, 55%, of reported non-fatal home cooking fire injuries occurred when the victims tried to fight the fire themselves. If you have any doubt about your ability to extinguish the fire, do not attempt it. Call 911. When I was share a story with you, when I was in high school, I was a sophomore. Our house burnt down. Our house caught on fire because of a grease fire. It caught on fire on the stove. Grease boiled over. We had an electric stove. My dad tried to grab the pan. When he did, to throw it into the sink right next to the stove, it was like gasoline. So again, he was reacting, wasn't smart on it. I wasn't smart on it, very young kid, and that flame spread throughout our kitchen. We couldn't get to it, and it just engulfed our entire house. So what I've heard, never had to deal with this before after our house burnt down, but if you smother a fire with a lid, if it's not outside the pan, if you smother a fire, take the air out of the grease fire, it'll go out. But if someone tries to grab that pan or pot and throw it in the sink, it's just going to spread like gasoline. So there's a quick story you can share with your command. If you can't smother it, just don't mess with it. And water and oil do not mix. Next slide. Smoke alarms. I'm going to take a pause here. I think we've covered about 5 more areas. I'm going to take a 30-second pause here if anyone has anything to share before we go into the smoke alarms. Any questions or anything to share with the group? All right. We'll move ahead on to smoke alarms and the summer threat of a smoke alarm when it doesn't work properly. In addition to having an escape plan in your home with your family, a great way to buy yourself some extra time in a fire emergency is to install working smoke alarms. According to the National Safety Council, deaths from fires and burns are the 5th leading cause of fatal home injuries. 70% of these deaths are from inhaling smoke. According to the National Fire Protection Association, almost 2/3 of home fires result from fires and properties without working smoke alarms. A working smoke alarm is critical for early detection of a fire in your home and significantly increases your chances of surviving a deadly home fire. Smoke alarms must be maintained as well. A smoke alarm with a dead or missing battery is the same as not having a smoke alarm at all. Test them once a month and replace the batteries twice a year. I know I'm guilty of this. We've had some smoke alarms go off in our house for no reason, and we've taken the battery out. I think my wife gets mad at me. She goes behind me and fixes them all, but I just don't like hearing them beep. So she goes behind me. But I'm guilty of that, and I'm thankful for my wife to replace those batteries. But if you've got one that's beeping and chirping, that's telling you that the battery's usually low. So the best thing to do to make that thing be quiet, stop annoying everybody, is to replace that battery. And if that doesn't work, just call your fire department if you like. They'd come out here. I know they come out here on post and they check them for you. And I think they do the same thing where you guys are as well. Next slide, please. Fire prevention. Here are a few safety tips that we'd like to share with you to prevent home fires. Never smoke in bed. A lit cigarette dropped on a bed can cause a large fire in seconds. Keep your stove and vent hood clean. Grease buildup is very flammable. Place your space heaters on level, hard, non-flammable surfaces, such as ceramic tile floors, and keep them at least 3 feet away from bedding, drapes, furniture, or any other flammable material. Inspect wires. If you have any worn or exposed wire from appliances, discontinue their use immediately. A fire will be imminent in that case. And what we mean by exposed wires is there's usually rubber coating or plastic coating on plugs and cables and wires. If there's any metal showing through that's been pinched or wore through, caught in the door maybe, or maybe sometimes the plug goes through a door or window, that's usually an area where wire will be exposed. So just inspect those. The best thing I do is I put on a pair of gloves and I run my hand through it. And if anything catches or snags on that glove, pay special attention to it and see if it's either just plastic flipped up or if there's wire protruding through it. Do not place cords or wires under rugs, over nails, or any high traffic area in your home. Increases the risk of wear, short, and a fire. Keep lit candles away from combustible materials and always blow them out before you leave the house. Never leave an unattended candle. The best thing we do now in our house, we stopped that. We use the candle warmers now. They just heat the candle up. Of course, we unplug them when we leave, but we have no open flames anymore that way. And always keep a multi-purpose fire extinguisher in your kitchen. If you can, keep one on every floor if you have a basement, a living floor, and then a bedroom floor. However your house is made up, if you have one, more than one, that's usually a good idea. Just a recommendation. Next slide. I'd like to talk about carbon monoxide for just a second. It's a colorless, odorless gas. In terms of disease control prevention, each year in the U.S., nearly 500 people die, and as many as 20,000 visit emergency rooms for exposure to carbon monoxide. Appliances that burn fuel usually produce very small amounts of CO and are not hazardous. However, if appliances are not working properly and are incorrectly, dangerously, and are used incorrectly, dangerous levels of CO can result. So how can you know if carbon monoxide is present? Well, it's not easy, but here we go. Carbon monoxide poisoning can be confused with flu symptoms, food poisoning, and other illnesses. Some symptoms include shortness of breath, nausea, dizziness, lightheadedness, or headaches. High levels of carbon monoxide can be fatal, causing death within minutes. You can prevent carbon monoxide poisoning by following some basic guidelines. Perform the manufacturer's prescribed maintenance on your heating systems and fuel-burning appliances. Install a battery-operated CO detector in your home and check or replace the battery when you change the time on your clocks each spring and fall. If the detector sounds, leave your home immediately and call 911. Don't use a generator, charcoal grill, camp stove, or other gasoline or charcoal burning devices inside your home, basement or garage, or near a window. Don't run a car or truck inside a garage attached to your house, even if you leave the door open. Don't heat your house with a gas oven. As noted in the video, I'm sorry that you don't have it. A safe home in your hands, it is once again starts with having a safe frame of mind. Let's move on to our final and most deadly topic, privately owned motor vehicles. Next slide. From fiscal year 09 to fiscal year 13, the Army lost 486 soldiers to privately owned motor vehicle accidents. Those 486 deaths accounted for nearly 79% of all fatal off-duty accidents during that time frame. Each year we lose an average of 97 soldiers to PMV accidents. Of those 97, 40 involve soldiers on motorcycles. Recreational vehicles can also be killers, and we average roughly 2 fatalities per year. Some of you have experienced the loss of family members, friends, or a fellow soldier in an automobile or motorcycle accident. If you have, think about how the loss affected you and the loved ones of the deceased. The next time you get the urge to take an unnecessary risk while operating a vehicle, motorcycle, or recreational vehicle, think about those who would be left behind. The next time you see a fellow soldier exhibiting risky behavior, have the personal courage to intervene. That soldier's life could depend on it. Next slide. Army driving myths. Here you see some common myths related to driving. The first statement is a tricky one. While alcohol is a factor in many PMV-4 accidents, it is not the #1 factor. In fiscal year 13, alcohol was reported in only 4 of the 35. That's 11%. Speeding was a factor in 10, which is 29%, and no seatbelt use was a factor in 10 of the accidents. That's 29%. Now let's discuss the other guy as a primary cause of accidents involving motorcycles. The statement is a myth because speeding and loss of control by a motorcycle operator causes the majority of Army motorcycle accidents. Keep in mind that accidents often have more than one casual factor. There were 39 fatalities due to motorcycle accidents in fiscal year 13, and excessive speed was cited in 13 of those. That's 33%. An average more than 50% of motorcycle accidents are single vehicle. So the other driver doesn't exist in half of our motorcycle accidents. The third myth listed addresses an issue that is becoming an extremely common and disturbing picture. According to Virginia Tech Transportation Institution study, engaging in visual manual subtasks such as reaching for a phone, Dialing and texting increases the risk of getting into a crash by 3 times. You are already multitasking while you're driving. You are usually visual, cognitive, and manual skills to drive safely. Adding a distraction takes one of those needed skills away from driving and places you and others at risk. For more information, you can check out this website that we found for you, www.distraction.gov. www.distraction.gov. The final statement is not the only myth for bad accidents. Wearing a helmet can make a life or death difference in a minor accident as well. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, in 2008, helmets saved an estimated 1,829 lives from motorcyclists, and 823 more could have been saved if all motorcyclists had been wearing helmets. In 6 of those, 15%, motorcycle fatalities, the soldier were not wearing helmets, even though it was mandated by regulation. Next slide. As we look at this slide, please note that in fiscal year 13, the majority of soldiers that died in accidents involving automobiles were junior enlisted, E1 through E4. However, when we look at the motorcycles, the majority of fatalities involve leaders, E5 through O5. Take a look at the violations and you'll notice that the vehicle accidents have something in common. Excessive speed is one of the leading contributing factors in all types of private motor vehicle accidents. No one is immune to vehicle accidents. To significantly reduce your risk, use these simple controls. Number 1, slow down. Number 2, buckle up. Number 3, wear the right PPE, protective personal equipment. Number 4, get the proper license and training. Number 5, don't consume alcohol. Leaders, ensure you're engaging your soldiers who ride recreational vehicles. As you can see, 80% of the fatalities that occurred in fiscal year 13 were for soldiers in the rank of E4 and below. Communicating the hazards of riding while drinking without proper PPE in an unfamiliar terrain with too much speed could have prevented any one of these fatalities, if not all of them. In addition to risking your life, failure to comply with Army rules and regulations may result in finding that an accident was not in the line of duty. The end result of a line of duty no finding could be the loss of substantial benefits for yourself and your family. That doesn't present a pretty picture. Next slide. Speeding. This slide tells the tale of speed. Excessive speed can be reported as a contributing factor in 10 of the 35 fatalities. That's 29%. And 13 of the 39 PMV2 fatalities. That's 33% as well. Over a quarter of all fatal off-duty accidents involving automobiles and motorcycles list speeding as the cause. 23 soldiers lost their lives due to speeding last fiscal year alone. Reckless is a term used by law enforcement to indicate that a driver's speed was beyond excessive, bordering on a wanton disregard for the safety of others on the road. That's why a charge of reckless driving is subject to a substantially greater penalty and lesser than speeding. A driver who is ticketed for excessive or reckless speed can also expect to pay higher insurance rates in addition to any court costs associated with their fine. Next slide. How do you define yourself? Fatal private motor vehicle accidents caused by acts of indiscipline, i.e. drinking and driving excessively speeding, not wearing seatbelts, are on the rise. Over the last year, 61% of all fatal private motor vehicle accidents Army-wide involve an act of indiscipline. Many involve more than one. It is a privilege to operate a private motor vehicle, and safe operation of a vehicle is an individual responsibility. Most soldiers are disciplined and comply with the regular requirements, regulations, and operate their vehicle in a safe manner at all times. The undisciplined soldier simply may not know the requirements. The undisciplined soldier willfully disregards rules and regulations and has a greater chance of becoming a fatality. Ask yourself the following question. Would a soldier, leader, friend be here today if they had just stayed disciplined? Would they be here today if a friend had stepped in and stopped the act of indiscipline? Now let's take a look at a comparison of the right and wrong frames of mind when it comes to motorcycle safety. Next slide. Next slide. Again, we apologize for that video. Here's a significant fact about motorcycles. The Army estimates only about 12 to 15% of all soldiers ride motorcycles. Yet last fiscal year, 13, nearly half of all soldiers who died in an off-duty PMV accident died on a motorcycle. So only 12 to 15% of our population are accounting for half of our deaths due to motorcycles. Proper protective equipment. From head to toe, good quality personal protective equipment is an essential part of motorcycle riders' gear. Many soldiers believe they don't have to wear a helmet if riding in no helmet state. This is not true. An approved helmet along with other PPE is required at all times on and off duty and on and off installation for all Army military personnel operating or riding on a motorcycle or ATV or moped. Additionally, Army civilian personnel are required to wear the same PPE when on a military installation, in a duty status on or off the installation, and operating a DoD-owned motorcycle. Wearing your helmet is an obvious way to reduce the severity of a head injury and prevent altogether, and a full face helmet provides the most protection. Slide. You must, and I say again, you must successfully complete the basic rider course before operating a motorcycle. You must be properly trained, licensed, and wear the PPE prescribed in AR 385-10, the Army Safety Program, every time, every ride. This applies to riding off-post as well as on-post, regardless of state or host nation laws, or whether you register your motorcycle on the installation or not. At this point, I'm going to stop again and let everyone have a chance to maybe add to something, share a story, or ask any questions about what we've covered so far.
I do want to add that all of you family members can go to all these courses. The motor transportation clerk at every battalion has the list of the courses. They're provided through any installation that's near you or community colleges. And the courses are either free or they cost you $25 and they offer you to give you the money back, or you vehicles. They have the vehicles there for you. So if you've never gone on a motorcycle and you don't let your significant other teach you how to ride a bike, go to an expert to save your marriage and your sanity. And that's a great time with someone that's going to take their time and see if this is truly an investment you want to make. And it's a great course.
All right, thank you very much. We'll continue on with motorcycle safety. We're almost done. We've got about 4 more sections and we'll be done. So just bear with me. I know it's been a long class. Continuing on motorcycle training, in addition to the mandatory basic rider course, the following training is required. The basic rider course 2, formerly known as the experienced riders course, or the military sport bike rider course, will be completed no later than 12 months after completion of the BRC. Sustainment training in the form of the BRC2 or MSRC will occur every 5 years after initial completion. Motorcycle refresher training, MRT, is required after a deployment lasting 180 days or longer. The goal of this course is to refresh skills and encourage interaction between leaders and soldiers. Please note that these classes are free to soldiers and you may receive 1 hour of college credit for the BRC. Motorcycle skills are perishable and need refreshing and constant practice to maintain proficiency. The proper training will provide you with a clear picture of what right looks like. Next slide. Next slide. Writing tips. Their acronym C stands for Search, Evaluate, and Execute. Search around you for potential hazards. Evaluate any possible hazards such as turning cars, and execute the proper action to avoid the hazard. Seeing will allow you to get the proper picture to take ownership for your riding safety by identifying hazards and implementing controls to avoid becoming a statistic. Next slide. Next slide. Autos, sedans, SUVs, trucks, and vans. Wearing seat belts and not speeding or drinking and driving are extremely important. Factors in preventing vehicles, accidents, and injuries. State and host nation seat belts use laws vary. However, AR 385-10, the Army Safety Program, does not vary. Occupant protective devices, which include seat belts, will be worn at all times by all soldiers driving or riding in a PMV, whether on or off the installation. Additionally, the vehicle operator is responsible for informing passengers of the occupant protective device requirement, and the senior occupant is responsible for ensuring enforcement. In 10 of the fiscal year 13 off-duty fatalities in automobiles, soldiers were listed as not wearing their seatbelts. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, buckling up is the most single effective thing you can do to protect yourself in a crash. Seatbelts save over 13,000 lives every year. Slide. Distracted driving. Now let's talk a little bit more about disturbing picture that we mentioned earlier. According to the Center of Disease Control Prevention, each day nearly 10 people are killed and more than 1,000 people are injured in crashes that involve a distracted driver. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, at any given daylight moment across America, approximately 660,000 people are using cell phones or manipulating electronic devices while driving. From 2011 through 2012, more than 6,500 people were killed in distracted driving-related incidents. When you drive a car or ride a motorcycle, you are multitasking. Your brain, your hands, and your eyes are all working together to keep you on the road, in your lane, and safe from other drivers. Doing another activity that takes your attention away from driving can leave you distracted and vulnerable to an accident. Distracted driving activities include, but are not limited to, texting, using a cell phone, eating, drinking, talking to passengers, grooming, reading, including maps or GPS, using a navigational system, watching a video, or adjusting the audio system. AR 385-10 prohibits texting and driving, as well as cell phone use while driving. Use of a cell phone is restricted to hands-free devices only. This applies to all soldiers at all times, on and off duty, on and off installation. Next slide. Driving fatigue. Fatigue slows reaction time and leads to higher incidents and traffic accidents. Like a drunk driver, the drowsy driver judgment, reaction time, and memory are impaired. Moreover, doctors point out that drowsiness is not a warning sign. It's the last thing that happens before you fall asleep. Do you really want to accept the risk of driving fatigue? The next time you hit the road on a long weekend or long trip, make sure you're rested. Next slide. ATVs versus ROVs. Not all off-road vehicles are the same. All too often, the all-terrain vehicle is confused with the recreational off-road vehicle, ROV. But there are actually some very significant differences between the two, even if both types of off-roaders are four-wheelers and they use similar types of recreation. If you are operating in an all-terrain vehicle or recreational off-highway vehicle, it is extremely important to get the proper training for the type of vehicle you are operating. Training is normally available through the dealer with the purchase of the new ATV or ROV. If you acquire a used ATV or ROV, training information is available from the atvsafety.gov website. That website is www.romeooscarhotelvictoralpha.org. Say it again, www.romeooscarhotelvictoralpha.org. And you can access some training videos there as well. Just get with your command and see what they expect from you. Make sure that if you are commanding today, part of a group, that you establish clear standards for operating the ATV or ROV. Remember, online training is a great tool, but hands-on is always the preferred method. In addition to getting training and wearing the right gear, you need to check your local laws. Some states require off-road vehicle decals and have designated riding areas. Many ATV accidents occur at places other than approved riding areas. Next slide. What this video would do, if we played it, it would simply show soldiers reappearing back into the formation, back to that original number of 143. So it kind of gives you a visual picture of kind of what you can do as a safety officer or as anyone as part of safety in your formation, and how we could potentially save those lives. The last thing I'd like to share with you was from my wife, and what she had said was to make sure that, as I briefed this, to tell you that as an infantry company commander, I had 130 to 150 soldiers that were between the ages of about 18 and 25. The hazards for those, and they were all men, the hazards for all those men would be very different than commonly found in a footprint where we're in a recruiting environment. A lot of married families, a lot of married couples with children. So the key here is not to take all this information and just say, you're going to put out a blanket safety brief. The key to to what we did, and this is an example, I'm sure you've done it before, and you can change however you want to manipulate to your command. The key to what we did as safety was we seen what was the risk of our group, of our company, and we applied and focused on those areas. You can focus again on your command with your personnel. If they're always on the road, TDY, if they're always traveling in govs, just to make sure that they have those certificates that the Army requires them to have. What we're like to do here in the brigade now as well, as we started here at the headquarters, is if I have a soldier coming off con leave from a surgery or procedure, and even though the doctor has cleared them to drive on TDY, we kind of hold them back a little extra time, let them get healed up before we let them get back in the road and start driving again. It's just something we do here, that we incorporate that, and we also incorporate MedPros into our leave and pass policy. And what I mean by we've incorporated MedPros is that we have left the soldier the responsibility to make sure that his MedPros or her MedPros are accurate, from dental to hearing to vision. And if they want to go on leave or pass now from the brigade headquarters, I have to get a copy as the commander here, the company commander, the MedPro sheet saying that their vision, hearing, everything is good to go, according to what the Army says should be good to go. I know that's debatable, but at least the Army says they're good to go. So there's another example of what you can do. But again, like I said, Ms. Shaver, my wife, had just asked me to pass on that it's key to identify what the hazard is in your footprint. A lot of younger children, we had a lot of couples with younger children, so we would have to address that. Swimming pools, a lot of people put swimming pools out in their yard for the summer where we were stationed before, and those swimming pools were left full of water and unattended. Parents would go back in the house or go back out, in the front yard, and those children, very small children, would be left in those little pools. Even though they're only 8 inches of water, 12 inches of water, they still posed a hazard. So again, just assess what you need in your footprint. And I'll pause here for any questions, or if anyone has anything to add for the group, we'll share it with the group.
There's a question up there saying something about, let me see, does the battalion offer the BRC motorcycle, that BRC?
The question was, I believe, do the battalions offer the BRC? And I cannot speak for the battalions. I can speak for Fort Knox and the brigade here. We have that here available, and we can have anyone come on TDY here to Fort Knox to get that training at Fort Knox. All you would have to do is call Miss Kay Reynolds. She's our S1. She's our safety officer. She's on TDY today. But what she would do is get the dates of those BRCs, and we would be able to coordinate TDY for those soldiers to come down here and take that training here at Fort Knox, if it's not available in your area. But we could get it done here at Fort Knox. Good question.
We do have it at all the battalions within 3rd Brigade right now. Again, contact your SFA. They'll get the information posted out from the motor pool chief, your vehicle maintenance officer there. They have all the courses. Your community colleges offer them, and they coordinate. 3rd Brigade actually contracts at battalion levels every year for some of these, if we have so many soldiers that we can't get courses through the local community colleges. So, any other questions? Okay. We have our last presenter of the day before the forum, and we are very happy to welcome May Gilletto.
Yes, ma'am.
And she's from the Red Cross. And you have So even for us, we were talking about volunteers, May. How did you enlist your volunteer, and could you please introduce your volunteer?
Yes, Brittany, come on over here. Brittany is she just turned 21 yesterday, so we were sad to tell you we didn't drink any wine, but I was tempted to bring the wine just so she could taste it, right? But since I was going to do this wonderful presentation, I said, they want to be a little tipsy because I think the general would be really upset that Red Cross came in a little tipsy. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you all, thank you so much. And you all have a Red Cross in all your neighborhoods. I just want to make sure that if I go over something today and you're going, really? I don't think she's telling the whole truth. You need to go to the Red Cross office and hopefully you will be able to get more information for your area. I'm going to go over the generic disasters. Do you need to give an answer? Okay. The generic disasters in Kentucky are pretty crazy because we have it all. As you all know, I didn't realize that we had earthquakes because I'm from California and I was like, woohoo, I'm going to Kentucky, there's no earthquakes, and we're at a fault. I just discovered, and a few years ago there was an earthquake, and I said, I can't believe it followed me from California. So since you're all military and you're all soldiers and you have spouses, your family members, soldiers, because you deploy a lot and you also leave a lot, you need to make sure that they are prepared because when you're not there, usually everything happens. I know because I was a military active duty spouse, and I've always, I think God always says, you know what, we're going to test that spouse to see if she's Army ready. And normally they are, but we want to help the young spouses that are left by themselves with babies. So as you can see, there's the emergency checklist that I gave to someone here in USAREC. And those are just basically, you'll have it, don't write everything down because you will get those in the mail, I'm hoping, am I correct?
They already have them.
Oh, they already have it. So those are just the items. Now, not everything on that list you'll have in your little backpack. I have a sample here, and of course it's my little emergency Red Cross bag. What you want to do is have several of these. Why? Because you want to have one in your car, and if you have 2 cars, you should have 2 bags. Reason being is because the day that a tornado or flooding hits, guess what? You won't have the right car because your husband took the other car, therefore you won't have any for you when you're traveling and you're going, I can't believe I forgot my bag. So what you want to do is to have 2 for your cars and of course 1 for your home. The one at the home will be much bigger. I have a huge bin and I've stacked food, I've stacked canned goods. Make sure, because I forgot the can opener, because a lot of the cans that I put in my disaster bag wasn't one of those flip things. They were, you have a can opener, you're in trouble if you don't have one. So make sure, and of course, you know, you need the flashlight. I mean, you have wonderful stuff, but this is the cool one. This is the crank radio that what happens is it has batteries, which I said, so I don't understand. If it cranks, why do I need a battery? Because then you don't have to keep on cranking it every 5 minutes because you'd miss the whole thing, especially if you know tornado warning or tornado watch. It would die. So you would crank it just several times, and the battery, after cranking it, will keep cranked, and therefore you'll be able to listen to the news or to whatever that you need to listen to, especially if it's a tornado watch, a tornado warning. What's the difference? Tornado watch is you got to be ready because the weather looks fabulous, especially in Kentucky. When hot air and cold air combine, guess what happens? The tornadoes hit in Indiana, Kentucky, and of course Tennessee sometimes, but a lot of times everybody goes, oh, it's a tornado watch, it's not going to come. Well, no, it normally will come. The tornado warning is, it's there. So don't be waiting for the tornado warning, which I did, I must say I'm really bad, which I thought it was pretty cool when I was in Kansas. I thought the colors were so beautiful. I went outside. Oh, how pretty. And my husband goes, where are you? And I said, I'm outside checking out the beautiful weather. He says, are you nuts? The tornado is right on top of us. Kansas was really bad for tornadoes. So I said, but it's so pretty, honey. And my husband says, get your butt downstairs. Because guess what? The tornado is right above the house. And you will die. Bring the kids downstairs. So Kansas and Kentucky have basics. There's some states that don't have basics. So where do you go? Middle room. Inside middle room? Okay. But if you're in an apartment, where do you go? Bottom floor? Yeah. You might not have time to go to the bottom floor. Because normally they'll say, okay, if you're in the 21st floor, hello. So what you want to do in an apartment, you want to be in the tub. And of course, have a blanket over you. And stay away from windows. If your bathroom has no window, that's a perfect place. Or a closet. Perfect place for you to hide. especially if you're in an apartment and or if you can't go downstairs because you just can't, you don't have time, you have a baby. Now, if you have a fire, whatever, that's a little different from a tornado. So you got to make sure in the fire, can you do the next slide? Let's see if it's on there. Is there a slide? Sorry. Keep on going. Keep on going. Okay. Here is an example of what I would like you all to do. I know it's painful, but you have to do it. If there's a fire, you have to have an evacuation plan. If you don't have one, you have children, it's not a good thing to do. Now, we, Red Cross, go to the schools, and we're hoping that the Junior Red Cross Club will tell their parents, hey, you need to do this. And we had an incident that happened, one of our, I think it was a kindergartner. We had told them that they had to check their fire alarm, and that they should do an evacuation plan. So the 5-year-old decided to go ahead and do something that the alarm went off. And he stood in the hallway with a clock, with a watch, timing everybody as they're going down the stairs. And so the mother goes, why aren't you going down the stairs? He says, Mom, I'm just checking to make sure that everybody's out in a few minutes, because the Red Cross lady said, we all have to be out of this house in about 3 or 4 minutes, and you just died just because you were the last, and I told you to hurry up. So this is my one little 5, 6-year-old kindergartner. I was so excited. The mother called me and she said, I was not happy because I was awakened at 2 o'clock in the morning by this little boy, but I was excited because he took it seriously, and the next day we had a plan. So what you want to do is to tell the kids also, where should we meet? Because if mom and dad, the house is our main, the main floor is the master bedroom, and then all the rooms upstairs are for kids. So you can't go upstairs immediately if the fire's upstairs, because that would be horrible. So you want to tell the kids, you make sure that we all meet at the tree house across the street, or in Susie Q's backyard. But you want it as far away as possible for the main reason that the fire may explode. You don't want the kids at harm. But you don't want to say, oh my God, what happened to Susie? You don't have time to do that. You have to tell your kids, we're all going to meet here. And when you're there and somebody's missing, then you'll know as a parent that you need to go back, or you just have to basically check and see where the other child is at. Normally the kids are really good. They're like little robots because they love that stuff. They're like, ninja, cool, and that we're going to be awesome, Mom, because we're going to have a plan. And that's what you want to have. And that's one thing that if you have children, very important. You need to tell them exactly where the extinguishers are at the house. You need to tell them everything, especially if there's a fire or a tornado. The tornado is something else that's really horrible because it will tear the house down. And if you can't find the kids, it's more stressful on the parents. But if you know that you've told them, if Mom and Dad can't reach you, go outside as soon as you can. Next slide. Just keep on going. Keep on going. Is there another? Oh.
There's another slide.
Yeah, there should be another slide. But the big thing is, disaster kits. I know it's painful. I never had one, but now I do because I work for Red Cross. And you also have one, if you work, you should have one in your office. Why? I have a change of clothes because I know I'm not going to get home, because I know I'm going to be stuck at the Fort Knox Red Cross office if there is a disaster and the gate's closed. So bring a set of clothing, make sure there's food in your little backpack, and make sure you have a cell phone charger, okay? Because I didn't do that last time, and my phone died, and I was like, I can't believe I didn't get a phone charger. And normally, that's the first thing in my purse, is a phone charger just in case. So that's what you want to do. Okay, as you can see, I just went over that. Keep on going. And of course, the rehearsal is wonderful. Heat wave, perfect timing for a heat wave discussion. I always wondered what a heat index was. Well, there you go. It's basically hot sun, humidity, combine them, and that's your heat index. If you're under, and of course, how many soldiers do we have? About 40 that's listening to this whole thing? And how many commanders do we have?
These are all spouses.
They're all spouses? Okay.
This is all the FRG.
So spouses, make sure that you are, if you're swimming, okay, and the kids are out in the hot sun, and the humidity is quite high, remember, direct sun, the heat index rises. because of your body, and then I will be telling you about what LeBron had at the NBA team basketball game. Next slide. Heat exhaustions, heat cramp, heat stroke. What LeBron had was a combination. He had the heat cramp because remember he couldn't walk on his leg because what's happening is the salt and the water, even though he said he drank a lot of fluids, but LeBron is like muscle man. He has so much muscle mass that I guess he just overexerted himself. And because San Antonio did a fabulous job by turning off the air conditioning to get him to have heat cramps and have heat exhaustion. And that's what happened to my little LeBron. As you can see, I'm for the Heat, Miami Heat. My husband was for San Antonio Spurs, and we were like at odds. And he was upstairs, I was downstairs. But that's basically what happened to him. So for you all, you need to make sure you have enough water. And for the kids, you need to have a lot of water, especially if you're going to be swimming or you're going to be outside the majority of the day. And if you have the heat stroke, that's a no-no. That's really bad, and that's when you become unconscious. And you also have a very, very high fever, sometimes 103, 105. And this is basically your mechanism to control your temperature at, what, 98.2, whatever, 98.6 is out of whack because the heat has just destroyed it and you're exhausted and you're ready to pass out. Next slide. And so what do you have to do in a heat wave? Avoid alcohol. Even though you'd like to have a little margarita on the side of the pool, margaritas are not a good thing to have, or caffeine. And go home, run the air conditioning on, and then also you gotta drink lots of water. And basically, don't keep on drinking water continuously. Take a 15-minute break. So have the kids sip, but don't let them suck up all this water all at one time, because that will make them sick, and then you'll have the other issue of throwing up. Okay, any questions so far? Next slide. Okay, tornado, my favorite disaster. Why? Because Kentucky has it all the time. As you can see, what is a tornado? I'm sure the kids have told you. Next slide. Okay, like I told you, watch and warning are totally different. Make sure when you see watch, you better start turning on the radio and you better check and see if it's your area because it comes quickly. The warning, that means they've seen a tornado or a funnel cloud and therefore it's spotted in your area. And usually the sirens go. Now, if you've got your radio full blast, which mine was a few years ago, I didn't hear a thing. And my husband says, where are you? It's a tornado in E-Town, and you are driving. I said, I'm in Walmart. I'm having the best time having this big sale. And my husband said, oh, my God, you're Red Cross. There's a tornado warning, and it's right on our ring road. You are crazy. Get installed. I was inside Walmart. It was fabulous. Walmart had everything all together. And here's the one thing I want to tell you all. I had a call from a lady, brand new to Fort Knox, and she says, I want to ask you, there's a tornado warning right now, and is there a shelter I can go to in Fort Knox? Good question. And I said, no, ma'am, there's no shelter. She says, why? Because a tornado can hit anywhere, and if we tell you go to Gambin Gym, and that tornado hits Gambin Gym, you'll be in more dangerous condition because you're in your car. When a tornado warning occurs, they really would rather that you stay in your house. Why? A moving target is pretty fun for a tornado. It's not a good thing, and if you're outside, debris, all that bad stuff will hit you. And a car, as I'm sure you've seen the movies, the car will be taken up. A house, not as much, because a brick house is so much harder for the tornado to take, but you need to be inside a building. You should not be in your car. You shouldn't be trying to outrun the tornado because you're not going to make it. Next slide. Yeah. And then, of course, we've had issues here. And, let me go back. So the lady said, so where do I go then? I said, go to your basement, whatever. And I said, but there will be on the radio if your house is destroyed or whatever. On the radio, the disaster team on post will basically announce where you can go for shelter. And usually Red Cross and the disaster team on post, emergency management, will basically tell all of us where to go. We picked Gambin Gym. What's the gym? Nature Gym is one, which because it has it's got everything that you can think of. So therefore they picked that one as number one. But that goes, there's a plan B and a plan C. And it can change anytime throughout the year. So don't say, oh, I know where to go, because that may not be there when you go to nitrogen. It may be gone. Next slide. Fire, they went over the fire. As you all know, next slide. It's pretty simple. And why do you tell the kids to drop to the ground when there's a fire? Yeah, because heat rises, so the better air is on the ground. And we also tell the kids, if you're near a bathroom, get some towels, wet it, and put it over your head as you're crawling to the exit. Why? Because fire doesn't like water. It would rather have something cool. Now, another person said, well, if I can't come out, of course you have to touch the door with not with your palm, because that's the most sensitive part of your body. It's the back of your hand, because you'll feel the heat. But a lot of people say, well, can we throw our mattress outside the window and then we can jump out the window? And I said, okay, how big is the mattress and how big is your window? No, because the window is a little narrow for the mattress to be thrown out. So we normally will say pillows, blankets, and if you have a baby, you basically can bundle them up in a blanket and then lower that baby, especially if you're on the first floor and not on the 10th floor. Next slide. And somebody already talked about fire alarms. I'm a bad person. I never check it, but my husband does. He's Army, so he's HUA, he's OCD. So he will check all our fire alarms. And I'm like, thanks, honey. But spouses, you need to do it. And he told you to check it at least every 6 to 7 months, just because the batteries do die. And you should have spare batteries in the home. Next slide. Earthquakes. All right, what is an earthquake? Well, I can tell you, it's not a fun thing to do, but you can't prepare for an earthquake. So I'm going to tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, you are not going to prepare for earthquakes. So what do? You try to go, well, I was from California, and our practice for earthquakes at school was we go under our desk. So this is a perfect desk to go under. So if there was an earthquake, because you don't want the debris falling on your head, you want something to protect you. And going under the bed is a little much. It would be fabulous if you have one. But going into the doorway, because that's the most stable and strongest part of the house, would be the best. But you really can't prepare for an earthquake. Question, maybe you might know this answer. But there's an earthquake and your electricity goes off. How long does the food in the freezer last normally? Oh my God! Do we have a prize for Miss Spatulette? Because I think she was studying. Good job. Well, yes. Yeah. When the power is on. If you have coolers, that's cool too. But leave the stuff in the freezer.
And she had to ask me. So.
Yeah, I had to ask her because she was my disaster queen. But if it's in the freezer, leave it there. Don't try to open and close it and go, oh my God, oh my God. Refrigerator, if you have a cooler, fine, but just leave it in the refrigerator, in the freezer. It should be okay, unless you've got a rotten refrigerator, then you've just lost all your foods. But you really can't plan for any of that. It's just that you have to go with the flow. Next slide. Winter storm. I know this is kind of early, but we had a winter wonderland in Cleveland, Ohio, and in Kentucky last year. So my daughter was in Alaska, and I learned a lot from her. Because she told me, Mom, my kit for my car was a candle and matches. Don't forget the matches. And the reason why the candle and the matches, because when you're traveling in Alaska, there's no telephone reception in certain areas. And if your car stalls, you got to keep warm until somebody finds you. Normally, you should tell somebody that you're traveling, and that if you don't hear from them for after 24 to 48 hours, go find them, because it's not a fun place to be in your car. But the one thing that you want to do is when you're stuck on the road, you want to have that candle, of course, because you got to turn off your engine, because if you keep the engine on, your gas will be gone. And also, you should, during the winter time, always have your gas tank full. Never, never have it half full. Always fill it, because you just never know when a winter storm hits. And you also want to have, if you're stuck in the middle of the freeway and you can't start the car, you have to turn on every 15 minutes. You turn it on for the heat, then turn it off. You want to make sure the pipe's not blocked, so you don't want to get the wrong oxygen, because then you will die. Also, the pets, and it's hard when you have a pet and the dog, because you feel sorry for them because they're freezing. But if you have a blanket in your fabulous Red Cross disaster kit. And Brittany, can you see if you can find a blanket? The blankets are pretty cool because they're like tiny, but they'll keep you warm. And that's something that you want to keep in your car during the winter months because that'll keep you have it, sweetie? I'll try to find it. But that's something that you can buy. Here's, got it? Okay, this is for rain. But I will find it. But it's a small thing that you just cover up and it's awesome. It's just awesome and it's not bulky at all. Next slide. Ooh, did I just? And also have your radio on just in case the winter storm. No. Is anybody in Florida? I want to be in Florida right now, don't you think? Yeah, the hurricane, you all can prepare for hurricanes. Okay, because a hurricane doesn't come like an earthquake. So the people from Louisiana, when they decided to stay for that wonderful hurricane, they were either on drugs or whatever because that was a no-no. When they say evacuate, the disaster people know exactly what's going on and they know that the weather's really bad. And I have to tell you, my 5K, 10K run, our weatherman at the airfield, it was raining, thunder and lightning and craziness. I called them up 25 times. And he had the fabulous radar, and he says, ma'am, there's a cloud over Fort Knox, so don't run. And oh, by the way, thunder and lightning is going to occur, so don't. So if the weatherman says don't do it, he's got this cool machine that he can see everything. And I said, can I come up and check this out? This is awesome. And he was so cute. He says, yeah, come up anytime, because he says, my radar is pretty awesome, because I can predict the future. And I said, okay. I said, I'll come over next time. But he was so awesome that he predicted at 8:45 the rain would stop and the thunderstorm would stop. And we ran at 8:50, and it was like clouds parted, everything was gone. Next slide. All right, basically how to prepare, pretty simple. Fill your gas with tank, make sure everything is tied down, close your windows. If you're or boarded up, and I always wondered, say, well, how do you board up your house? Because if you're by yourself, that's insane, especially if your husband's not there. FRG ladies, you know what I'm talking about. So if I were you, I would go in my car, take the kids, make sure you get all the necessary paperwork and everything that you need, money, make sure you have the money in the credit card, and then go to where they tell you to go, because I would not stay in my house and try to board it and try to save it. Okay, and if you have tornado and flooding insurance, you better make sure, because sometimes the insurance does not cover that, you better get flood and tornado insurance, because sometimes the regular insurance does not cover that. Next slide. Next slide. Next. Next. Okay. Keep on going. This is how you prepare. This is your kit for a flood, and you should have this done today. Why? Because you just never know. And this is pretty self-explanatory. And the one thing I have is like a little the Swiss knife that has all the cool stuff, the can opener, the wine corkscrew, the cool stuff that you want to drink, wine while you're in the basement. But all of that is really awesome to have because it's one little tool, and you don't want to go, oh, where's the screwdriver, you have it all in one little tool, and it's in the bag, and you can find it quickly. The blanket's easy, but the extra cash is really important, and credit card. And insect repellent and sunscreen. I always forget to say that, but when you're in Louisiana and you're in Kentucky, Louisiana especially because of the mosquitoes and the bad fabulous humidity. During the flood, as you know, some people wanted to stay with their homes and their animals. The bad thing about that is some of them died doing that. So what you want to do is to make sure you get all your belongings. That's so important to you. But if they tell you to leave, you can't put your children at risk, especially if your husband's not around. For the FRG ladies, you got to make sure you listen to the emergency management, especially if you live on post. If you don't live on post, the civilian sector will tell you exactly where to go. And if you have a radio, you need to turn that on, because the TV's not going to help you any sometimes, because sometimes a wire gets exposed, and therefore it basically there's no reception. So the radio is so important to have. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, after the flood, camera is really good to have because your insurance company's going to go, what happened? What damages do you have? And usually the Red Cross in every disaster will take care of you. What do we give you? If you've lost all your furniture, your clothing, your food, we will give you a cool little credit card that you can go to Wally World and that will supplement you for 3 to 4 days until your insurance company can take care of you. But Red Cross will always help you in a fire, flood, tornado, so make sure you get to know the Red Cross before you need them. And that's our big thing, is get to know us before you need us, because that way then you'll understand what we do. At a fire, we're usually there at the scene, and we will give you the credit card right then and there, so that way you can go, and we will put you in a hotel for 2 or 3 days until the insurance company will start the process. But normally we will support you all, so make sure if you're living off post, find the nearest Red Cross, so that way you know where to go when you do have a disaster. Next slide. So what you've learned all of these wonderful things. If you've learned one thing from my presentation, is get a family disaster supply kit. And you've got that on your, I think we mailed it to them. Right. So you got to make sure that you have a kit, and have several kits. 1 for the house and 2 for the car. Why? Because if you don't have it, then you'll say, why didn't I listen to that crazy Red Cross lady? She was right. Because normally I didn't have it, and then guess what? It was a thunderstorm, and my car died, and I'm like, oh my God, I have the kids, so what do you do? But I learned that if during a thunderstorm, you got to be careful. You cannot be outside. As you know, thunder will strike, and if you're wet, and if it's raining and thunder, you will be the main object of the thunder and lightning. So you want, if you're outside, there's no protection, and I was told, go to the nearest short tree, not a tall tree, because the taller the tree, guess what happens? Lightning will, and that'll, So the shorter the tree, see, short sometimes is good. Being tall is not always the best thing, but short, and you've got to squat or lay on the, don't lay out, but scrunch down and be as low as you can to avoid the thunder, avoid the lightning, especially if you're out in the field like soccer players. As you'll see them, they'll crunch to the ground, and they will put their heads, because that's the big thing, is they will play through rain, snow, sleet. Our soccer players are awesome, but when there's a thunder and lightning, it's very dangerous, and especially in the swimming pool. As you all know, the swimming pool people say, if you can hear thunder, you have to count, I think, 5 to 10. If you can hear it, every 5 to 10 counts, you got to get the kids out of the pool, because it's too close for the kids to be in the pool. Right? So if you have any questions, don't ask me, because, no, I'm kidding. Go ahead and ask me now, but it's pretty self-explanatory, and you all know what to do in a disaster, because you're Army spouses, and you guys rock. And you don't really need your husbands, to be honest with you, because they're never there when you need them, right? Yeah, and so you guys are awesome. And so anyway, again, thank you, ladies, for supporting our military, and I envy you all wherever you all at, because I've heard that you're all over the is it Midwest?
Midwest.
Yeah.
They just had people all the way from Minnesota.
Yes. Yes, and so tornadoes are really going to be bad. I know it's heading to the east. I think Nebraska got hit hard last night, and Chicago area too. And Madison, yes. So you guys just be careful, but the tornado and the heat wave are the big things in this area right now. So just be prepared and know your Red Cross. Google Red Cross in your area, and that's the people that you want to talk to get more information about disasters and what they can do for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
May, before we were talking about today's focus was on volunteers, and you have a volunteer, so we want to ask you, volunteer, what made you volunteer for the Red Cross?
Okay, Brittany.
I had nothing better to do.
So, did you find it on your own, or did May come out and solicit you and say,
No,
hey?
my dad is a gate guard, and he said, Brittany, you should volunteer. So,
May's good at leading.
Yeah. The kind of brainy in years, I'm not 17, so I can't really get a real job. So
she's working for me, and I love her. Red Cross will take really anybody that's willing to help out, and it doesn't matter if you've had a brain aneurysm or you have 4 children, whatever, it doesn't matter. You guys, ladies, if you're bored out of your mind, if you've cleaned your bathroom 4 times in less than 2 days, it's not a good sign. And you need to network, so that way if you network, then you'll have more information in your back pocket, so when your husband's, networking is really important, because then you can say, I know where to get that, I know where to go, and you'd be like the queen of all the FRG ladies, because they're going to say, go to her, because she knows all the answers. And normally it's hard when you're moving around, but it's nice to network, get to know ACS, get to know all those wonderful places. But if you're off post, then you need to get to know all the other nonprofit organizations, Salvation Army, Red Cross, of course, and of course Goodwill. Those are the people that will take volunteers. So if you're willing to give some of your time, and you don't have to give 20 hours. You can give 5 days, 1 hour every day. It doesn't matter. But we'll find something for you to do, and I think you'll have the best experience. And Brittany is a prime example. She won Volunteer of the Year for the civilian side for Fort Knox, because she did so many hours. I think you did what?
I did 2,000 hours.
2,000 hours. So, but she loves it, I think. And I just want to say, ladies, if you do get bored in the house, get out. Because it's not...
I'll probably be there
forever. And she's really good. But we have a lot of volunteers that come, they go, we didn't know that you existed. And I said, really? So get to know your Red Cross, get to know where to go for disaster. But then if you want to volunteer, this would be a good way for you to learn all the different things that you really didn't know about the place that you're in, especially the state. And you need to find out where the evacuation centers are in your state or in your county, so that way you'll know when they say, okay, the shelter is in 3rd and 5th Avenue, you're going to go, where's that? So you need to know where everything is at, so that way when they announce it, you won't be going, where's the map? And of course your map is gone because you just had a flood and the map is gone, or you had a fire. So be aware, network, and go out there and support your community. Thank you.
What age do you take teenagers?
The teenagers, depending on the maturity of the child, but normally 14 and older. But we've had 13-year-olds that are very mature, and we've used them and abused them, and they've come back, believe it or not, every summer since they're bored and mom and dad are ready to kill them after 1 month of being at home. But yeah, we will take a youth, and we'll also take adults, so 18-year-olds and older. I'm sorry?
So that's great. My teenager could put it on their resume. If I had a teenager sitting at home looking at something for their college resume to put on their packet.
Yes, and I had to tell you one more thing. We had an Eagle Scout who did a project with the Red Cross. He did the Run for the Red for the kids. So his father came back after 5-6 years. Now he's 22, 23. Fabulous job. I think he's working he's an engineer, whatever. And he said, Dad, I have to tell you, pushed my butt to volunteer and to do Boy Scouts. And that Eagle Scout really helped, because on all the interviews, he said, so you're an Eagle Scout. So you worked for the Red Cross. It was always mentioned, and he says, during those interviews, I kind of said, oh, thank God I did that. But, it's one of those things that he hated it. His father would push, and his father is a contractor here on post, and he's seen me several times, and I asked, how's my boy? He says he's doing really well. He's making more money than me now, he said, and he's a heating and air conditioning guy. I think he's an engineer now and works for these big companies. So it's really good to volunteer as a youth, and also there's scholarships out there, kids. There's a lot of scholarships when it comes to volunteering. And if you don't volunteer, even though you could be brilliant, if you volunteer, it helps. But if you are brilliant and there's no volunteer, no community service, they don't even bother looking at you. And that was one of the things that the ROTC cadet, I think the ROTC guy in Xavier told my daughter. He says, so you volunteer a lot. Looked at her resume, and she said, and you play soccer, huh? So he kind of said, so you play soccer, you volunteer, who made you do all this? She says, my mom and dad. So it kind of helps the volunteering, especially when you say Red Cross. How can you say, ooh, how bad is that? No, you say, that is awesome, that Red Cross, because we do blood, we do everything. So make sure the kids do volunteer, even if it's for a few hours during the summer. It kind of helps them. It makes them grow up a little bit and understand the needs of the community. So,
thank you so much.
Yay, thank you. Are we done? Are we done? Yay.
want to thank you for coming.
Oh, you're so sweet.
And you give me party gifts.
So sweet.
So much.
Thank you, guys.
Answer.
I hope I didn't bore you to death.
No, it's
good. Because I hate meetings.
Thank you for the check.
Yes, that's really good. And I'm gonna check on you this Saturday, Miss Bashman. Yes. And I'm checking your car, checking everything, the basement, if there's any food downstairs. There is, my house is full of food, and my husband goes, "What's this way?" He said, "We're gonna have a disaster, and I'm gonna be prepared."
But I always have.
Canned goods.
I grew up on a farm.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. So you should.
Every year, so.
Yeah.
Then we had.
But see, if you don't go from the farm like I did, I'm from California, so like everything was right there. And my mother goes, "You're in big trouble. You're going to Kentucky. That's farmland." I said, "No, it's not." But she says, you better be prepared because they have tornadoes. And she's visiting now. She says, how come there's no tornadoes? I said, "Mom, don't say it too loud. The tornadoes will occur. Don't worry. It's too early to summer." So you guys, I'm so sorry to say another. Are we done for the day?
We are opening for questions from any of the people or closing comments from any of the battalions.
She's a great volunteer.
So for the end of this event, we questions you would like to ask at this time. I got excited. I thought there was somebody online wanting to ask a question.
There we go. Any questions in the chat? I don't see any
Well,
questions.
let's do a roll call then. All right, Chicago, you're up.
Maria, have any questions?
Do you have any questions or comments about the presentation, Alex?
No, just for lunch.
She's ready for lunch. She's on Central. She's on Central time.
Oh, they're in Central.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry you have to buy your own today, Alex.
She wants to lunch out of there.
All right, let's go to Columbus. Anything from Columbus? And Cleveland.
There's a back and
Okay, Indy Battalion. Do you have anything, any comments, closing comments, lies, alibis? Okay, she's right there, nothing from Indy? Yeah. Okay, Great Lakes. All right. Nobody from Great Lakes? Sorry. And then we've got Minnie.
We don't have any questions, but just so you know, the only thing that we could access was the DCO. The other two venues did not work, the Hangout or the YouTube thing.
Okay. Thank you. All right, and then Milwaukee.
Anne Marie, the VTC is the only thing besides our little patch bridge that I've been able to hear and participate The plus Google, I've had tremendous amount of buffering problems. So I would have relied upon that. I would not be current at all on the information.
And Nashville, any comments from Nashville? I know there are some people on Google Hangout. If you've got volunteers that have been with us throughout the day, if you could type in any questions or comments as to how this forum worked for you, please. You see any coming up there?
I have 4 viewers. Yeah. And I don't see.
We have had the Google Hangout on 2 different applications. I did wireless, and then we had it hardwired through the system. And I did notice buffering problems on the wireless as compared to being hardwired. So there was a difference on whether you were on the land or whether you were Wi-Fi. If you did a wireless, there is a buffering issue. Any questions from the field? Tom? All right, closing comments from you ladies.
Okay, I'll go. Well, thank you everyone, and I appreciate you using all the different venues of technology. This was a great effort on 3rd Brigade's part. I appreciate it. And it was nice that you did have a backup for those of you where one of the venues did not work. Hopefully it will all work in the future, and I know that we're all working to go forward with new technology and trying it and using it to the best of our abilities. And I think it was the FRG briefer who said we are the wave of the future, and really USAREC is leading the way with the Army with using technology as a means of communication. So I again appreciate you using this today, and I just want to give a plug that tomorrow we are doing the USAREC Family Forum on Google Plus Hangout, and the instructions are on the Facebook for USAREC today. You should be able to find it there on how to link into watch that 30 minutes about. It will start at 1 o'clock Eastern time. So this will be our first attempt to do the family-centered questions. My husband did a Google Hangout town hall the end of April, and some of you may have been able to participate or view that as well. So hopefully tomorrow that will go well, and we'll just keep trying new technology and make it better each time. So again, thank you for all your participation. It was wonderful.
And I'm going to kind of also say thank you, Anne Marie, for setting up the training for us for 3rd Brigade, all the staff here that helped support it, and all the people who came out today to give us training. I think it's a great start to what we can look forward to in the virtual reality of our this might be the last time I get to talk to everybody. So I just want to thank you guys for the last 2 years, and thanks to Terry, and Julie was here, and Sandy Moody was here as well. Thank you. And look, the right strip. It's for you, Terry.
Well, thank you very much. Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much. And again, thank you to Kathy. She and Ed have worked very, very hard the last 2 years, and we are going to get to support Kathy the next year as Ed heads off to Afghanistan. She will stay with us here at Fort Knox. So we're happy to have her here. We're unhappy that Ed will not be here, but she's a good, strong Army wife, and we will be supporting her. And it is a part of what we do in this world that, well, this Army world that we are a part of. But it's a good Army family. So thank you again.
Thanks. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right. I didn't know where to go.
I know. So many cameras.
You guys